Welcome to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast. And now your host, Dave Weichert.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast. I apologize for the interruption there, trying to come on. I've been having some technical issues either with Restream or my internet provider, so I'm not sure which one it is, but I've been getting some lagging throughout the day, so just bear with me. And yeah, I'm super excited to be back. And tonight, not one guest, but we have two guests. The first hour, I'm going to be speaking to Andy Andrews, and I'm going to put his bio up in a second. And the second hour, from 8 to 9, we're going to be talking to Sean Wilhoit, who had a Bigfoot experience in West Virginia. And he's going to share his encounter with us. And Andy's going to stick around for the second hour as well. And we'll have some questions for Sean. So let me go ahead and put Andy's bio up. Bring him in.
Andy has been researching ghosts on and off cryptid and mostly Bigfoot. He lives in PA in an area that has lots of sightings. Andy manages Ghost City tours. Over 35 years both with spiritual and ghost investigating and cryptid along with UFO phenomenon. Andy has been on several teams over the years. He founded Vapor in 2018, Valley Agency of Paranormal Research. He has worked beside many well-known names in the field. He was haunted by spirits at the age of 3. Due to the significance of the location of the house, it was surrounded by areas of the Civil War Battle of Cedar Creek. He has studied demonology with both Jeremy Leonard and exorcist Father Mike Ross. He is currently part of Jeremy's Cajun Ministry Foundation and holds the title as demonic specialist. Andy has spoken across the East Coast at both private and public events, as well as helping with the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. Without further ado, let's welcome Andy to the podcast.
All right, let's go ahead and bring Andy in. Just bear with me for a second, and let's see. Here we go. All right.
Look, I'm already being attacked by
Hi, Andy.
Union soldiers.
How about that? Awesome. Yeah, if you noticed, I was having some. I don't know what the issues are, but I apologize for the
Oh, you're good.
delay. Yeah, I can't. I don't know. I don't understand if it's Restream, if it's my provider, internet provider. I'm sorry. Let me fix this screen here. I'm going to bring you up a little bit. I'm going to try to put you beside me. And then I'm going to take a drink because my mouth is dry. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, should be right. Wow. I'm starting to think it's Restream because now I'm not getting. Yeah. Yeah, I want to put your block up there right beside mine. But, okay. Should be there. Wow.
It'll come on when halfway through. That's what it does with mine usually. It'll just pop up all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Here we go. Here we go. Let's try this. I hope I don't mess something up, but let's try this one. Let's see what we get. No.
Got
it. There we go. Yeah. Where'd your soldier go?
He's getting ready to go on tour. He gives tours. Yeah, the guys here, they dress up in character, or the gals as well. And, they do a very theatrical tour, which is pretty cool. They take it very seriously. And actually, the gentleman was just here. He had a family that fought in the Battle of Gettysburg. If you've ever seen the movie Gettysburg, you know that Chamberlain and the whole holding up the end of the Union line, his actual, I can't remember if it was his uncle or his grandfather or great uncle, great grandfather, but one of them were with Chamberlain when that happened. They were actually in that regiment, and he's been a historian and stuff like that and everything. And so he moved to Gettysburg because of the connection, and been given tours across town for quite a few years, and I got lucky to get him. So
there you go. Well, I'll tell you what. I spent a lot of years in Gettysburg doing research. I was the founder of the Maryland Paranormal Research Team, and and of course I've been to what was it? Phenomenology a couple of years, providing the audio for them, and
nice.
I came up with this karaoke. So we did karaoke, and
right,
that's
cool.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research in Gettysburg, a lot of years. And just to let you know, I have 40 years.
Wow, you're right. You're a few years ahead of me. That's right. Yeah,
in paranormal research. Yes.
awesome.
And, in 2018, I decided to change my boots. So I took my
Right,
paranormal boots off and I hung them up and I said, okay, now it's time to chase down Bigfoot.
right. That's kind of
And,
where I'm at right now, doing a little bit of both, but it's starting to lean a lot towards Bigfoot. So I seen you were advertising the get together at the end of the year or this summer. We've already got
yeah,
tickets. Already got
to
tickets. Got tents. So
September 6th and 7th.
yep,
Awesome.
yep, we'll be there.
Awesome. Yeah. So not just so much Bigfoot, but I also, over the years, in the 40 years that I've studied, I've picked up books from UFOs to cryptids, all that
Hmm.
stuff. And I don't, I'm not claiming to know everything.
Right.
I'm not one of them people, but that's
Same.
that's my interest. So, um, I want to thank you for coming on to that
Well,
freeze.
definitely. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Okay, something just
Yeah, it glitched for a
uh
second, but it's good now.
yeah, I lost my what is now I know what it is. There we go. Now I know what
There you go.
Okay, so folks, bear with me. It seems to be Restream. I don't think it has anything to do with my internet provider. Uh, some crazy screen just popped up, and I lost my control board. So if I don't have a control board, I can't navigate and do anything right. So it's back. Thank you, Lord. Um,
Right.
now I'm sorry, Andy. I lost my thought, but
Oh, you're
yeah,
good.
yes, I want to thank you for being a guest tonight, and so let's start off. Before I ask you some questions, let's tell everyone about yourself. What got you into the paranormal?
Well, I grew up in a little town called Charlesburg, Virginia, which is about 20 minutes south of Winchester, Virginia, which is, a pretty well known part of the Civil War. Jackson was stationed there. They had a lot of skirmishes in that area. But the
Hmm.
Battle of Cedar Creek, which was fought um, practically 3-4 miles from my house in Middletown, Virginia. And so my grandparents, they had property where they lived at. They gave my parents property to build on for wedding gift. And while they were doing that, years later, I found this out. Uh, they started finding remnants of, Civil War stuff, things like that. And
Wow.
then we ended up finding out that there was an actual Confederate ammunition dump on the property behind my house. Um, so around 3 years old, there was about a 75-yard field between my grandparents and us. And my grandfather would come home from work. He'd work that like 1 o'clock in the morning getting home. And they had a big floodlight on the side of the house. Uh, Grandmother would kick it on. Grandpa would go inside and, would still be on for a couple minutes. And I would notice people right in the shadows of like right where the floodlight couldn't actually reach them. And what was really freaking me out is I was about 3 years old and I was only seeing half figures. I wasn't seeing legs on some of them. And
Hmm.
we're talking two or three. And then they'd cut out the light. And by that time, I wasn't going to go back to sleep. So I would continue to poke my head and look out the window and um, down to, I would just continue seeing this. It wasn't every night, but probably once a week at least. I mean, it may have been happening every night. Some nights just didn't pay attention. Told my parents that what was going on. I'd wake them up, thought it was, crooks or something. And it got to a point with them that they got concerned, took me to a doctor. Next thing I know, 4 or 5 years old, I'm being brain scanned and everything else because they thought that I had something going on. And finally, my grandmother steps in and she says, "Well, I think what's going on is," she said, "my grandmother's gifted." And she said, "I think some of it might have went to him," which some of it did. But I think really back then what it was is nobody told me that a spirit or ghost or that energy, that it was something that didn't exist. So I was still fresh, still, not knowing that. So as I got older, I kept getting into it. My dad was kind of he never went out after Bigfoot, but we watched a lot of movies. I remember going to the theaters and stuff. And when they come out with, I forget who it was, Disney or somebody come out with a Bigfoot. And anyway, so I always was around it a little bit. My grandmother used to sit on the back porch and tell ghost stories, summer nights, and spook us so bad till, we'd run home and stuff like that. But about 14 years old, I met a gentleman from Fredericksburg. My parents had a campground membership, and we'd camp there every weekend. And he lived in a house that was actually an officer's headquarters during the Battle of Fredericksburg. And I would go home with him, like his parents would let me go there for the week, and then we were coming back the following weekend. And I witnessed, the only thing I could say, I don't like the word orb, but an energy ball. He had the room, his bedroom was the room that actually had the walk up attic. And that's where they were setting up in the attic, going over plans, I guess, whatever the officers were. And we would hear mumbling up there in the middle of the night, and everything else. And one night he and I were laying there, and this is back in, the 80s. So pinball machines were still big. And next thing we know, the pinball machine's going off by itself, and we see this ball of greenish blue energy come out the door of the attic, lit the room up, and then turned around, I guess is what you could say, and went back into the door. And from that point, him and I would talk about it all the time. And then when I turned 16, I had an opportunity to go and watch these two people that were supposedly ghost chasers or something, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I went to watch them speak at a college, him and I did. I see this guy there with all these microphones and weird looking wires and all this stuff. And him and I decided then, man, that's what we're going to do. So at 14 years old, we bought one of those old tape recorders that you had to push play and record at the same time to get it to record. And we stuck it in a house that was supposedly had activity, and ended up actually picking up voices. We went back the next morning and got, the tape, and we were going to flip it and let it play, record the rest of the day, but we decided to listen. And then I started from that point looking in, reading on it, got some weird attention in high school and stuff because I was doing reports on paranormal and, this and that. And we were just hitting places because the Shenandoah Valley is where I grew up at. So there was, within a half an hour shot, you could be on a different battlefield. And so that's what continued to do it. And then I actually got, in with more people as I went that were in it for a little longer than I was and were older. And they started explaining to me, a little more about it, more studying it, on my own. And from that point, it just kept getting more and more and more. And I actually had backup from my grandmother. My dad, he wouldn't say a lot, but he'd kind of just look at me funny. But at 20 years old, my mother passed, and suddenly, and I'm going to say within 3 or 4 weeks, we were having things happen at our house that were unexplainable. And by that time, I had a video, the old big VHS video recorder, and
Oh yeah,
stuff like that. And wouldn't catch a whole lot, a little bit of shadow work here and there we would see, but never anything. And I've always been a big skeptic first. I always try to find a logical answer. And but then, just like I said, it just over the years growing with people, I wanted to make sure that people that were having uh, experiences didn't have to go through what I did, which was your own family thinking that you were crazy. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
and
been there.
that's what I still do it for. I mean, yes, I love going to, Penhurst and, all those places as well. But I tell people that if you're somewhere that that is haunted, such as Penhurst or St. Albans Sanatorium or something, then when you're in there, you're actually ghost hunting because you know that it's already haunted. You're just trying to figure out where you can go to communicate. When you go into a house and the people, all you have is what experiences they have, and you have no idea what it could be, I call that investigating because you're trying to find. So there's not much of a difference, but one, already kind of what's going on. The other one, you're investigating to find out what it possibly could be, and then coming up hopefully with a solution to help the people out.
Right.
And then I gave myself to God at about 26 years old, 27. Went to a very charismatic church. They had a guy that was a demonologist that came there and spoke one night, and uh, I kind of had an interest in that. So, and I think what it was is being so young and going out into to these creepy places and just had built up a tolerance, I think. But I really felt like that was my calling, so I started doing courses in that and met Father Mike Ross. He is a Vatican taught exorcist and priest, and Mike lives very close to me. Great guy, man. You would never think in a million years that he was a priest the way he acts, but uh, and then Jeremy Leonard. If you guys know him from Ghosts of Morgan City and 28 Days Haunted, uh, Jeremy started having some classes, took them. And what ends up happening is once I finished that with the work with Mike and the work with Jeremy, uh, they you get the title of demonic specialist, but not demonologist. That is earned by going out and actually doing things in the field. And your mentors actually give you that. That's where some of these online courses you can take, are great to have, and that paper is great to have. But if you're not doing the work, you don't know. But I say that, but most of my paranormal stuff I do is not related to that. That is only when people call in or Mike is asked by the church to check something out. And this infatuation with demons that's happened in the last couple of years is farthest from the truth. And I'm going to say probably within the last 5 years, out of as many cases that we've went and checked out, probably a handful or I could count on one hand that was actually what we could say demonic. And that's far and in between the way it happens. And you'd go deeper into that, but but that's how I got into it. Just fascinated by it. Meeting so many cool people, it just seemed like that was my family, my tribe, paranormal.
Right.
And from that point on, I have people that are just family. I mean, they're not blood, but they're family. And I've had the pleasure of helping out with the Gettysburg Bash that Pam and Steve Barry throw every year. Um, I helped out with New Jersey Para Unity this year. That was fun with Chris and John from New Jersey Paranormal, and just have gotten to know a lot of people over the years, and even some of the big para names and stuff like that. They're just like you and I, man. They're cool, and I've learned a lot of stuff off of them. Some of them I'm actually, on a, weekly basis of phone calls and talking to them. And every day I learned something new. And yeah, Gettysburg was as a kid, my parents would bring us up here to a little amusement park called Fantasyland. And I always wanted to go actually on the battlefield more than I wanted to go to the amusement park. And I told my kids growing up, a single dad, and I told my youngest, he graduated a couple years ago. I said, within the next 2 years, I'm going to be in Gettysburg or very close to it. So I moved to Waynesboro, PA, which is about 25 minutes from here. And still worked in Virginia. And all of a sudden, I see an ad come up on Indeed for a Ghost City Tours manager. And thank God. And thank God through my years of meeting everybody, I actually ended up knowing the owner, and he's got 27 branches across the United States, but he grew up here around Gettysburg. He's a very hell of a historian and a hell of a paranormal investigator, and we do more history than anything with it, but then they tell the paranormal, with it. Here in Gettysburg, we study more on the history and tell stories that people have, witnessed. But, some of the places like New Orleans, people want nothing but ghost stories and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's been my journey. Met some really good people about 1.5 years ago, found out that where I live at, the road I take home to and from work actually has a ton of Bigfoot sightings. And South Mountain.
And
Have you ever heard the
you're in
Alba Twitch?
the what?
The Alba Twitch.
No.
They have an Alba Twitch festival here outside of Gettysburg, but it's a miniature version of Bigfoot. It's their version.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know
So you're in Adams County, correct?
I'm in Franklin County, just over
Franklin County.
from Adams to Franklin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Don't lose your thought.
No.
Since you've been talking, have you noticed that myself as well as you keep going from light to darkness, light to it's restream. But I was going to ask you if your soldier brought a friend with him.
Yeah, I was watching that.
It is.
It got really bright on you a while ago. Like it was like it just
I looked at the screen and I said, "Oh my God, I'm as white as a ghost." So, and I'm sure you have perfect lighting, and there it goes again. I have perfect lighting, so it's got to be Restream. I'm going to have to have a talk with them and find out what was going on today, because you're not fading too dark, but you're fading from light to dark, and so am I. At times, you can see the back of my wall. Yeah, my wall lights up pretty good, and then it gets dark. And I was talking to a good friend of mine today. We were, talking about lighting and green screen and stuff like that. So, I've been putting a lot of effort into, understanding that a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But now I know that it's a Restream today that's lagging and lighting is poor.
And I see you good. But no, the Alba Twitch, or I don't know if you ever heard, back in, I believe it was late 70s or early 80s, they had a sighting, multiple sightings of what could be described as a bipedal, and you can find it on Google. That's how I looked it up. But it was a bipedal, orangish brown fur, and they said it reminded them, even though it was on two legs, they said it reminded them of kind of like an orangutan color. But they would see this thing getting in and out of dumpsters throughout Maine, Gettysburg. And actually some people right here on York Street shot at it and didn't hit it.
Oh, wow.
But that's where, I don't know if that's where the legend of the Alba Twitch came out. But supposedly he's an apple lover. So out here where they have the apples for the wineries and stuff like that, they do have a festival. I'm not sure when it is. I believe it was somewhere around August or September last year. But yeah, we actually sell T-shirts there at my shop that have a little cute looking, wouldn't think Bigfoot. But
Right.
but yeah, I'm just, if you go over South Mountain, that's exactly where I go over, and you dumps you down into Quincy area right outside Waynesboro.
Not like
But
this guy, though,
I
right?
no. No. I think
Yeah,
I
a
had
friend of
one
mine.
sight of him one time, and I don't know if I'd really want to ever go toe to toe too close to that, as big as what we saw, if that's what it was. I can't say it was, but uh,
Okay.
the shoulders were probably every bit of 5 feet across, maybe. I mean, it
Mm.
was huge. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I could see the muscle and everything. And I was like, somebody
How
asked me what it
close?
was. We were probably, I want to say maybe 75 yards away, something like that.
It's pretty
We were
close.
going, yeah, we were going through, on it. I can't remember the name of the park, but I come down Route 15 and came in from it that way into Gettysburg. And there's a state
Mhm.
park that's still in Maryland there. And about 11:30 at night, a friend of mine, and it was both of us, we were riding together. Guys in front of us, and my buddy's driving, I think, a little close to the guy, and all of a sudden, like, he smacks the brakes and stops right in the road and jumps out. The car is still moving. So he jumps back in, cuts that off. And I jump out to look. And all I saw was this thing crossing over a dead log. And the log was probably every bit of probably 6, 7, no, I wouldn't say that much, 5 foot, probably laid down. And this thing stepped over it. I mean, and like I said, all I seen was the back of it. Looked like, my friend said he's seen, Chris said he's seen butt cheeks, going over it.
Butt cheeks. Oh my gosh.
But the
Yeah.
what it reminded me of, the fur, I guess, or whatever, because we weren't directly on it with lights, but like how your lights will go out to the right and left, it was kind
Hmm.
of in that lighting. And
Right.
if you remember Fozzie off of the Muppets,
Hmm.
if you remember that character, that curly, little bit long, brownish, weird brownish color. That's what it looked like. I mean, that's what all of us saw, but I didn't see a head or nothing like that. I didn't see legs or a butt, but I know that I noticed that this thing was wide across the top of it. And I don't know of a color of any kind of animal that big. Like, we don't have brown bears or anything like that, in this area. So
Hmm.
I left it at that. Didn't hear anything. It was weird because it was so quiet moving, but yet it was moving fast. And to this day, he says Bigfoot. I say possibility. The guy that was in front of us caught even a better glance, and he said Sasquatch. I remember him just saying that. And a park ranger came up because we were out in the middle of the road, 11:30 at night, on a blind turn. And he comes up, and we told him what we thought we saw. And he said, that doesn't surprise me. And that's all he said to us. Like, he had been used to getting, some kind of stuff like that, I guess. But I was like, but I've been out a few times squatching with some friends. And um, one time we did get a tree knocked back at us in Virginia. And we were more doing paranormal stuff. And as we're walking down the creek bed, my friend Stacy Lee picks up a stick and bangs it on the tree a couple times. The next thing I know, right across the creek from us, right back at us, man, like bang, bang, bang. And, it's farmland, nobody's around unless somebody was watching us, seen us or something over there, and then they screwed with us by banging back. But that was a weird one. And some rocks thrown at us up on South Mountain. Went to a place up there that actually I was told to go up there by one of we had a state policeman and a game warden, I guess you would call him, came in here
Hmm.
and took a tour, and we got on the talking about Bigfoot. And he said, yeah, I got called up to T-Berry Campground, which is just a big parking lot. He said, you ought to go up there if you want to look into stuff like that. But we've never found anything like tracks no nests, no, and it seems to be a heavy populated with deer, plenty of wildlife, a lot of thick brush, and it does have some creek beds up there, but I don't know if they would produce anything, that would be a significance to say Bigfoot. But
I was just able to open the chat room after a half hour.
I see it.
Yeah, I kept trying. I'm like, I don't want to complain anymore. I'm just gonna,
Right.
send my text to restream later, and yeah.
I'll tell you something cool I found out the other day that I know you would enjoy. So if you have Google Maps that you use, to go, to use for your, your travels, you can actually go on Google and put in Bigfoot sightings for Google Maps, and you can download it to your Google map, and it will show you. It takes roughly, I put it on there and it took about a day for it to finally show up. But what happens is when you go in your maps to type in an address, it'll show you, it'll have little pictures of big feet and
Wow.
it'll have Bigfoot, it'll have UFOs on there, and then it'll have another little box that'll say cryptid, but not anything that they could give a name to. But that's really cool to look at, because PA, I'm telling you, is littered with sightings.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a cool thing to add on to your maps.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. If I wrote it down, but if you get a chance, send me a link later.
I will.
I actually was used the Google map. I was looking at my family's property in West Virginia, and I was just looking around the property, and I may have come across can't tell because it's, you can zoom in, but it still doesn't, pixelate a little bit, and I'm 80% sure I found a Bigfoot walking a path.
Ooh, nice.
In the woods. Yeah, on my family's property. Now they've had some stuff that's happened over the years, and they're close to Calhoun County, and Dogman and other cryptids like Hellhound and stuff like that's been spotted. So
there you go. That's what you see that there. So that's Google Maps. Yeah, it shows you all Bigfoot sightings, UFOs. That's what it would look like, which is cool. Oh.
Wow, awesome.
Now, where exactly is that in West Virginia? That county?
Ormond.
Okay.
Ormond, West Virginia.
Yeah. Ooh,
that's near Calhoun County, and try to remember some of the other ones. I can't think of them right now, but the guest that we're going to have on the second hour dated my ex-sister-in-law. So when he comes on the second half, but his encounter was 100 miles from my family's property.
Nice.
And I believe they have like 700 acres. Yeah.
Wow.
So this fall, I'm going to be filming a movie. Well, I'm going to start filming it probably early November. I'm going to go up there for like a week, and then I'm going to film some stuff here in Pennsylvania and Maryland, and I'm not going to spoil it. I'll get more information out there about it later, but it's going to be about it's going to be about Bigfoot, but it's going to be a tearjerker. Yeah.
Good for you. Nice.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with him being shot or anything like that. It's
right.
It's going to be a tearjerking movie. So
yeah,
I have a question for you. Name some of well-known names you've worked with?
As in some of the paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
Now, as in Bigfoot, I did get to go with Ronnie LeBlanc one time. Ronnie and I are friends.
Okay.
I believe he's going to be maybe at the Pennsylvania one, if I'm right. I have to ask
He
him
is.
again.
Mhm.
But he's a cryptid guy all around. He's pretty wild. I
Oh,
got to
yeah.
meet him really the first time this year in Jersey, or last year in Jersey, and we just automatically hit it off and laughing because I have this nice Bigfoot shirt that I wear. It's buttoned up and it's got Bigfoots all over it, and so I wore it in, and I guess I stuck out like a sore thumb while he was doing a symposium, and and he walked right up to me, but we had met the night before over a couple beers at the VIP party, and I picked his brain as much as I didn't want to bother him. But from that point on, he hits me up every now and then uh, on Facebook. But he's coming to the Bash this year, I believe, the Gettysburg Bash,
He is.
and I asked him, I'm going to ask him, I haven't quite yet. But last year, a bunch of us just got together after the Saturday when they shut the vendor spots down. I took about 4 guys up on South Mountain and we went Bigfooting for them to more just have fun. And I might ask Ronnie if he wants to do it this year with us. I mean, it's only, 20 minutes up the road tops, and we're out in the middle of nowhere type of deal. So, but as in
Sounds good.
some of the bigger names, Sean Austin and I are good friends. We do a lot of stuff together. He was on 28 Days Haunted, Ghost Loop, I think the Demon Diaries or something way back in the day, something like that. Jeremy Leonard, obviously. I've been with Daryl Marston quite a bit. Him and I do a lot of stuff together. He comes in town. Brian Murray and Rochelle. Mustafa Glory and Brandon Alvis. I just shot they're doing haunted discoveries, and they're based down in Kentucky. And I'm trying to get back down there, but not for paranormal. and but they're doing a series called Haunted Discoveries, and I believe they're on a Canadian, what we would consider what's equal up there to T&E down here. So it'll be coming to stateside soon. But I went down there and shot a day with them and my son, which was pretty cool. Shoot, who all else have I? I mean, I know Jason Hall's well. Never been able to go with him anywhere though, and actually, doing investigating. But Jason's a good guy. Dave Schrader, I have investigated with him. Let's see who else. I was just with John. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the first time Dave Schrader sang karaoke at Gettysburg.
I can imagine.
He sang, "You ready for this? I Think I Love You" by the Partridge Family. Yeah.
that does not surprise me at all with him. Yeah, the first time I ever met him was at Pam and Steve Barry. They have a haunted bed and breakfast in Waynesboro, and the Hoover House. And he came there for an event. And actually, I can show you. So the first time I met him, I asked him if I could get a picture with him. So this is the picture that he gives me right there. But then he said, "Now, can we get another picture?" And this was the next picture that he got with me. And then from that point, him and I, he was master of ceremonies at the Bash 2 years ago. And so I got to spend some time with him there a little more. It seems like him and I pop up a couple places throughout the year, always together. And we've gotten to the point now where we're really, first name basis. And I look at these people and I really respect and admire them, but I don't get like, celebrity fan, They put their pants on like I do every day. It's kind of how I do it,
That's
and
right.
at it.
That's right.
And I'm more there to ask them questions. I mean, like I said, I met Tango and them this year for the first. Well, Tango I've known for a couple of years. He did remember me, which was surprising. Um, oh shoot! I mean, all the guys from Ghost Hunters. Uh, I had the pleasure of meeting Chip Coffey this year for the first time, or last year, and
Let me share a story with you. Him and I went to lunch, and we went to that Gettysburg buffet. So we walk in, we sit down, we get up, we go get our food, and we sit back down and we start eating. And this woman comes walking over and she goes, "Aren't you Chip Coffey?" And Chip Coffey points at me and goes, "No, he is." I was like, "Oh
so
my god!"
that's funny because my story with him is involved about food too. um,
Yeah.
so where they have the New Jersey Pair Unity at every year, it's in a big high school in Woodbridge, New
Uh huh.
Jersey, and it's Woodbridge High School. And so what they do is they have the gym for vendors and stuff like that. A couple of the celebrities are in there, but then what they do, like with Chip and Jason and all them, they put them in some of these bigger classrooms. That way they can kind of
Mm-hmm.
control the flow of people coming in and out. Well, we feed them when they're there at lunch, like sandwiches, stuff like that. So Chip had taken a
Right.
break. He had taken a break, and usually they have Chip. He's got his bodyguard with him. I say bodyguard. He calls him his travel mate or something. But this guy is this guy looks like he could snap you in half pretty quick. But and then you have a couple of the volunteers that are standing there, helping out as well. So Chip decides that he's going to run down and get food for everybody. So him and I are walking
Right.
back down the hallway, and he's got like 6 or 7 sandwiches, man, in his hand, chips. I'm carrying drinks, but it looked like he was carrying all that food to eat himself, you know. And somebody like looked at him
Right.
really funny. And he said, "Oh no, no!" Like he was so worried about everybody thought he was eating that food, and he was being genuinely nice and taking it to the rest of the people. But yeah, he's an eccentric guy, man. I got to hang out with him then a little bit, and then he was in the same hotel I was in, so we ended up down at the coffee bar the next morning. And he's a genuine dude. I mean, he really is, man. Like he knows that he has a gift, but he doesn't use that gift to get where he's been, if that makes sense. Like his gift has
Right.
gotten him where he's been. He still is in it to help people. He still is in it to deliver messages from the other side. And he has not let the fame go to his head. And that's really, you don't, find that in a lot of them. Some of them you would think, some of them, that I've known over the years that were not, very famous and ended up with it, they get some kind of mentality to them that, I need 2 Cokes and a Snickers bar at every time and everything I go to. And if they don't have it, they're, giving people hell about it. And it's like, kind of funny. And but like Dave Schrader, there's another one, man, very genuine, man. He's still um Dave, he cuts up and jokes
Oh yeah.
around all the time. Hey, I tell you what happened to him at the Jersey Paracon last year. He lost his voice.
Really.
You imagine him, man, not having, you know,
Right. With no voice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and but yeah, he's just a care. He's a jokester for sure. Um, quick story: him and Daryl Marston. Like I said, Daryl and I are very close. His wife Melanie, all of us, and so they did a paranormal excursion where they went over to England, and this was Dave and uh, Dave and Daryl were the two celebrity ghosts or the ones doing it. And they end up in a pub one night and they're having a beer, and some of the Englishmen there that are well known for being able to drink decided that they were going to challenge Dave and Daryl to beers for beers. And both of them were telling me about this. Anyway, they ended up out drinking the Englishmen. And the Englishmen are getting booed by their own people and stuff like that and everything. And Daryl, being Daryl, he's usually a really nice guy, quiet. Well, he had a good, I guess, beer buzz going, and he said, well, once again, he said, us Americans beat you Englishmen, like that, and they almost had to fight their way out. Is where I'm coming at, and I could have just seen that because he said, Dave said he was trying to get Daryl out the door. Come on, man, and they're human like us, you know what I'm saying, which is hilarious. But that was a good story to hear both of them telling it and, adding on to it. But yeah, man, I've been very blessed, man, over the years to meet people, have the opportunity to go with some of the bigger guys and stuff like that. Some of them were public events, paid. And then some of them, I just was invited by people they were close to. And eventually it's gotten to a point kind of now to where if any of them are in the area, Gettysburg, they'll call and say, hey, you want to, come over and investigate with us or something. And they have a couple new places here in town that have been I don't want to say refurbished, but they've gotten into the right hands and they're actually opening up some of the places. The Gettysburg Academy on High Street was the first seminary school. The same families had it for about 100 years, but the last brother that had it until now did not want any kind of paranormal stuff. He didn't want to have any kind of events. Now the brother that has it now, that's what he wants to do, and the paranormal field, watching people work together, man. They needed a new capicola for on top of a new cupola on top of the academy, and couple teams got together. Daryl came in. They had a couple public events and raised enough money to be able to refinish it back to what it looked like, back in the day. And, that's what I like doing the paranormal for, outside of helping people, is actually benefits and stuff like that. And I speak at a lot of them because people like hearing my views on theories on some stuff. And like you said, I don't know it all. There is no experts, in my opinion, in paranormal, because it's kind of hard to have an expert with an ever evolving field like paranormal is. And you could have some very seasoned people like yourself, but as an expert, I've met people that were in the field like 2 or 3 months, and I've learned something very valuable off of them to use, the next time I'm doing something. So, it is. And Hollywood's done a little bit of a jerk for us, but I think they're kind of rewinding a little bit now. I don't think there's going to be as much shows on mainstream TV, and it's going to be more like here on YouTube and stuff like that. And I think they just needed to kind of do a reboot. I've seen some ridiculous stuff out there in the paranormal, and I just more worry about people that are playing it, or how can I say it, that aren't taking it seriously. And it worries me because I've seen people, man, their lives ruined by, going to the wrong place, wrong time, not respecting what they may be running into. And next thing you know, man, they've lost their house, lost their family, everything else, can't figure it out, And the paranormal is not for everybody. You've got to kind of know the possibilities. It's kind of fun to go somewhere that's notoriously haunted and run through the hallways with people and stuff like that. But there is a very, serious aspect to it. I've brought some stuff home and even did what I thought was the correct things on cleansing and stuff like that, and still brought stuff home, and I just hate seeing people. That's when they learn that it's a serious thing and not, a carnival, and
Let me show you a picture real quick.
sure.
It's a place I used to do overnight ghost investigations with paranormal teams, and I'll tell you what. This house was built in 1841. It was owned by the Worthington family, and I used to bring home quite a bit from there. What did I do with it? Okay, it's in here somewhere.
Yeah, I had a visitor had a tag along come back from Penhurst. That was fun. And then I had one come back from Moundsville one time, the prison.
Okay, it looks like I removed it from the library, but I'm going to have to reinsert the photo. Oh, here we go. Here it is. I'm sorry.
Why does that sound familiar? Where is that located?
That is in Darlington, Maryland.
I've heard of that.
Just below the Conowingo Dam.
Okay, I know exactly where that. Yep.
I met the owner and I started researching that place from 2007 all the way up to 2018. I had one visual ghost sighting of a woman dressed in period clothing about 4:00 in the morning. A team had come in and they paid, for the whole weekend. When you do an investigation there, you had your own room, and it was an old mansion, so it had plenty of bedrooms and places to sleep. And about 4:00 in the morning, I decided to just go in the family room and kick back on the couch. And I heard a noise, and when I sat up to look, this woman was looking at me and just gliding by. And as soon as I stood up, I should have been able to enter the hallway and still see her going up the staircase.
Right.
Gone that quick. And I had to go up and I had to wake, members of the team that was staying there and the person that was in charge. And I said, did somebody come in late? Because some people would go out in their car out in the grass field and they would sit there and they would, review like audio and stuff like that because it was more quiet. And he said, no, she's not one of mine. So, and if you were to ask me how clear was she? Clear. I thought it was a person, but
I got
it was just like you walking in the door and looking over at me and just keeping on.
Right. Well, I can tell you, like here in Gettysburg, the tour guides, like you've seen the one that came in here when we first started, many of them take great pride in dressing as original as they can. So they're always exchanging notes or tailors or whoever, that does their stuff. And one night we're standing out here. It was, I'm going to say roughly right after Halloween. So it was getting cool, but not bad. And we're standing out. Now I'm on the square, if you know where the Lincoln statue is. On the square.
Lincoln statue.
Yeah, there's a statue of Lincoln standing beside a guy.
Probably.
Yeah, the Mason building. I'm right beside the inn on Lincoln Square. They're my neighbor. David Will's house is the house. It's connected to me on one side.
Right.
Anyway, so I can walk right out the front of my storefront and I'm looking at the square, the circle, roundabout. And it's about 11 o'clock one night now, and I'd stayed late, didn't have to, but I'd stayed, and the last tour goes out at 9 o'clock. And so we were kind of wondering why, it's usually we do an hour and a half tour, give or take. Mostly it's a little bit longer. And it was one of our female guides. So I was kind of standing there making sure that she got back, and we went over to Blue and Gray and had a couple drinks and stuff. And so she finally gets back, and we're all standing there. People disperse. It's pretty quiet, and we see this guy, man, dressed in full Union, dress. But what was weird was he was walking down Baltimore Street, coming towards the square, and he was walking where you would have parking spaces at. He wasn't on the sidewalk, but he wasn't out in the middle of the street either. And he's just kind of walking, looking straight ahead. And actually, one of the guys that dresses like a Union soldier when he gives tours, he said, "Man, I got to find out where he got that hat and those. It was something with the stripes on the jacket." And I said, "Well, give him a yell over there, And he said, "I'll wait, I'll probably see him again because it's probably a tour guide that late at night going back to their cars or whatever." And we briefly looked at each other as the guy crosses. He never stopped, walked right through the roundabout, like where they have the flag in the middle, the grassy area. And we're like, what is he doing, Because nobody rarely does that. And as he would have stepped up onto the grassy area, he was gone. I mean, that quick. And yeah, it was three of us that saw that, but it's kind of the same thing. We should have been able to see him as he stepped up onto that, because we were sitting on the bench, and we stood up because my buddy was getting ready to yell at him, my worker was, and he was gone, man. And but we just had last night on Eisenhower Bridge, I took a good friend of mine, Melissa, and we're sitting at Eisenhower Bridge with her car lights on, pointing directly at the bridge, and literally watched a shadow person walk from left to right. I mean, I was completely floored because I've had, you get them, you catch them out of your peripheral sometimes you get lucky and see them. But this was like, yeah, man, that was probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. And it happens all around us. I think one of my theories that I've been working on is that I think we have just as much paranormal going on in the daytime, if not more, than nighttime.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that's because I don't think we change. Do they know a sense of time? Do we know a sense of time on the other side? But I would think that if somebody worked a 9 to 5 and slept from 8 till 8, that why would that change a whole lot on the other side? Right. And so I really get sometimes, man, I'll be walking down Baltimore Street and pass somebody that's really in good attire, period clothing, and I'll catch myself turning around and looking, to make sure that they're still walking and not just gone. I'm like, I haven't had that happen yet, but Gettysburg is a very different. Well, you've been here many times, so it's still nice to see that most people take it pretty serious. So, we try to give honor to what this place is about, and that's always what I'm going to be for, and that's why I chose Ghost City as a manager, and he wanted me because we understand the significance of Gettysburg, and not only for the battle and the way things turned out, but the loss of life, and nothing like it, man. It's a wild place, and but at the same time, it can humble you very quickly.
Yeah, I just took a look into the room to see if Sean has came in yet. Apparently, he hasn't. I'm not sure what's wrong. Let me take a look at something here. Okay. Yeah, he hasn't came in yet. So,
Do you know who
um,
Chad Kalick is?
no.
He used to be the heavyset guy that was on Paranormal State, that was kind of a producer.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, I believe he might have did that Bramblewood one time, because I remember he talked about something very significant one time where people,
Mhm.
they ended up sleeping in the field in their cars, and he said, but I cannot remember.
Did he say why?
Yeah, they had a bunch of stuff happen inside, and it scared quite a few people, and I can't remember. It's been a while since I heard him talking about it on the
Yeah,
podcast.
there was a lot going on in that house. People were touched. Um, I was in the basement doing an EVP session with four other people, and we were in the dark. The only light we had was probably more or less candlelight, something, a little bit of light coming from one of the instruments somebody was using. But anyway, we were doing an EVP session, and I heard something go blink, blink, and I said, "What was that?" And somebody said it sounded like something hitting metal, bouncing off and hitting metal a second time.
Right?
So I said, okay, let's stop the EVP session and let's turn a light on and see if we can figure something out. So we turned the light on, and there was a rock sitting near one of our feet. So I picked it up, and there was chairs upside down on a table,
Right.
and I hit the chair leg with the rock. And this woman said, "That's it. That's what I heard." So we played it back, you know, a period of times, and then I just kept hitting that table leg, and they were like, "That's it." So we turned the lights out. I don't always do EVP work in the dark, but some people, that's the way they got to have it. But
Right. I
anyway,
understand.
we went back, right? We went back into our EVP session, and I said, "Could you tell me who threw the rock?" And we heard a thump. And right after that thump, I got hit in the head with a rock.
Right.
And I was like, somebody turn the light on so I can see how bad it is. So, person looked at my head and he said, "Oh my God, you need about 2 or 3 stitches."
Wow.
And I'm like, crazy me. I went upstairs. I took a little bit of super glue, bloop,
I was getting ready to say glue.
squeezed it.
Right.
And I said, "Okay, I'm good. I got a headache, but I'm good. Let's get back down and do another one." And nothing else, of course, happened after that. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember him
So
telling loss of time, or people kind of just meandering around like they didn't really know what was going on for a couple minutes, I guess, or something. And then they would snap
mhm,
out of it, and it scared them so bad because they didn't have control of the situation, if that makes sense. Like they weren't
right,
possessed or anything like that, but it was almost like, but I remember that was one of the things he was talking about.
right, yeah. Um, like I said, from 2000, I can't really remember if he was there. 2007 to 2018. That's a long time.
Yes.
Before I stopped doing research there, but um,
I've definitely heard of that place. Yes.
yeah, it. I'm trying to think of the other area that's close to that. Let's see, it's Darlington, Maryland, Port Deposit.
Yeah. See, and
Uh,
that's where my ex and I, that she lived in oh crap, Abington. So that was right there. Um
yeah, yeah.
Now she did take me one time. We couldn't go in the place, but she took me to a psychiatric, or I guess it would have been a. They had a park built around it, but it was in Annapolis,
Okay.
and it was a bunch of different buildings. And to me, it looked like, I guess the same people that made Penhurst maybe were part of building that one too, because that's what it reminded me of. Was
Hmm.
like campus like that. But yeah, she took me to a few places like that, and I'm wondering if that was one of them that she had talked about um, taking me. But yeah, Fort Deposit was right there. She, within, she wasn't far at all from that.
Hmm.
But I remember we used to go up and down the road. We'd go past that, but that's pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah, that's basically all around Route One, Belair Road, and you know,
Yep.
so that would take you, down into Baltimore County, like Kingsville, Maryland, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of interesting things happen there. I'll keep you informed. The owner of it's also a campground on that property
Nice.
that the house sits on. So the owner, you know, pretty much travels around the world
Hmm.
every single day. I'm going to get in touch with him and I'm going to do a reunion uh, at the location. I'm going to go
Nice.
back and I'm going to do a whole weekend stay there and, have paranormal teams come in and, you know, um, I'll
Let me
probably
know.
do it. Yeah, I'll probably, do a cookout. And, I've always provided, like a spread, as far as food, snacks, and stuff
That's
like
what we
that.
do. St. Albans Sanatorium down in Bradford area,
Hmm.
Virginia. Uh, well, I've been part of it a couple times. I've always been part of it, but Chris Hammond calls himself Haunted Hammy. Um, he books it usually from Friday evening until Sunday afternoon, and I've been a couple times. It's been him and I both doing it, but we stay on site. They have a community room, but that's what we do is we go out buy hamburgers, hot dogs, do the whole 9 yards. And it seems
Uh-huh.
like when you keep and usually we got about 20 people there, so on and off. And it seems like when you throw out that kind of positive energy that I believe in anyway, it's almost like you draw in, like everybody's kind of just, uh hanging out and having a burger and stuff like that. And then the next thing you know, man,
Yeah.
you got stuff that's happening. You know what I mean? Something catches everybody's attention or something like that. And yeah, that's cool though. Yeah, definitely let me know. I would love to do
Oh,
that.
you would love
Love,
it. The teams that came there to investigate always came back.
good.
Always came back. Now, of course, I'm not saying every single time there
Mhm.
was a team in there, there was always, activity.
Right.
Um, we had our dry spells where, nothing would happen. I had a team come in one night. They stayed overnight. They came in like around evening time and stayed till about 6 in the morning. And they left. And as soon as they left, I was left there, by myself until my nephew arrived. Um, but even before my nephew arrived, oh my God, things just doors started slamming, and I started hearing kids laughing up in the attic in the cupola,
They like doing
and
that when
then
you're by yourself.
yeah, and my nephew came in and he says, "We need any groceries?" He said, "We're going to be here one more day." I said, "Yeah, let me give you the list." So he goes to the store. I says, "While you're gone, I'm going to take a shower." So I go in, I get in the shower, And all of a sudden, I hear the bathroom door go,
God,
and I'm like, Chuck,
all you can think of is Psycho, the movie.
and I didn't hear anything. I said, Chuck. So I pulled the shower curtain open and I said, Chuck, nothing. So I finished up. I got out of the shower, walked over to the towel rack, and my towel was gone. I said, okay, maybe Chuck got back and he's trying to scare me. So I opened the bathroom door and I looked out and I looked. You couldn't look left because it was a window there. So I looked right down the hall. I didn't see anything. I put my head back in the door and I shut it a little bit. And I'm standing about 7 feet from the bathroom door, and I turned around real quick, and the door was just stopping. So I walked over and I opened the door, and I looked out and didn't see anyone. This time I looked down, and my towel was laying outside the bathroom door.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So I told my nephew, I said, the next time I go to take a shower and there's nobody here, I'm going to put an audio recorder, a digital recorder, on the windowsill right outside the door.
That's what happens every time the good stuff happens.
Yeah.
Every time the good stuff happens, you miss it.
It always happens when you're not, of course, the whole, when these teams would come in, and even myself, if I was just there for the weekend, I would set up cameras in like different rooms.
Right.
To a hard drive. And, but the good moments aren't always captured,
Nope.
when they need to be. Nope.
One of the practices that I do with my teams is about every time I go anywhere is I always take an EVP session that I put the EVP recorder a little bit further away from us, and we start having, between the investigators, normal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just talk and stuff like that. And you would not believe the times that we've caught stuff, because I guess they almost think that we're ignoring them, maybe. It's like,
right.
I mean, I just had one a couple weeks ago. We were at one of the field hospitals. Friends of mine just bought the place, and it was used as a field hospital. And we're just checking it out. They know it's probably going to have some energy, and nothing really. We're getting EVPs, no kind of equipment, and I'm not a big, crazy equipment guy. I have the normal stuff. I mean, I used to, and I've realized that I was just hurting my back carrying stuff that a backpack can now, outside of, cameras.
Oh.
And
I always took the whole house.
And
yeah. So,
but we didn't get anything, and then I decided to put the EVP recorder in. It's kind of got an island. They redid the kitchen area, so it's got an island. And so we were sitting in the living room, but there was no wall between us and the kitchen. And that's where I put the EVP recorder out, and we just started talking. We actually were talking about football. And so I gave it about 10 minutes, went back. We hooked it up to the guy's stereo system there. And we're listening, and you can hear us talking, and something says, "Hey there." And like a couple minutes later, it was louder, "Hey there." And then that was the only two things we caught. But it was definitely something that was trying to, I mean, we had heard some weird noises, but that could have been us fidgeting around, moving on the furniture or something. But it definitely seemed like this thing was not happy that we had been investigating, trying to communicate, and then not saying give up, but it started kind of just going, being normal. And hey there, and it's like, but yeah, I had a really weird experience in a house not too long ago here in Gettysburg. I have two good female friends that have been investigators they've probably been in it for 15, 20 years. And the house was set up where you walked into the house, to the left, it went down and kind of around a corner. And then to the right was kitchen, and you could go back in that area. And then it had a basement. Well, they were having issues in the basement and back that hallway around the corner. So the girls went there. Myself and another guy went down the basement. And then Mike, the pastor I work with, he was outside talking with the homeowner. And I don't know, a good hour went by or something. I come up the steps. The other guy stayed down the steps. I come up the steps. I go through the kitchen, and I'm making my way around the corner, and I hear the two girls or women laughing down that hallway around the corner. And I knew it was them laughing and stuff. Sounded like they had the door closed maybe to the room or something. And I said, "What's so funny?" Down the hallway. No big response. As I was going out the front door, I heard them laugh again. And I go out. Mike's out there sitting on the front porch with the woman. And he says, "Well, how'd things go? You know, anything like that?" And I said, "You know, a few things down the basement." I said, "It sounds like the girls found something funny down there." And he looked at me really weird. And I said, "What?" And about that time, they pull up in the car. They had just went to get us some drinks at the store.
Wow.
And I heard them laugh twice, and it was their voices or their laughs. So, yeah. And that one really freaked me out because I've never had that kind of experience. I haven't never had in all 37 years, I've never had a doppelganger experience either. I think I've seen stuff going around the corner that I thought was, you know, one of somebody with me, you know, investigator, but I just would catch them quickly going around. But there's supposed to be some place up here around Gettysburg that some teams have been seeing doppelgangers on a regular basis. And I haven't quite got my foot in the door yet, but they're interested. But I'm not sure if I want to see that. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I love doing what I do and everything else. There's still some things that raise the old hair off the back of the neck, and you know, you're thinking, you know, you might want to leave this one well enough alone. You know, let him keep
Well,
on.
I'll tell you what. I want to see Bigfoot, but
I
I
do
don't
too.
want it to be. I don't want it to be where I turn around and he's standing 5 feet away. That's not enough. Well, they say he can run fast, but that's still not enough room for me to get away. You know,
No,
you got to give me at least 10 cars. You know,
right. I always tell
so
them I got to have a hip replacement, so I'm not as fast as I used to be. I still do it, you know, not much of a limp
right.
or anything, but enough to slow me down. So I tell everybody else, if Bigfoot ever comes at us to get us or any cryptid, I said I will be the sacrifice because it'll catch me first because I'm slower. I said, but I'm a bigger guy, so that'll give you even more time because he's gonna have a little extra meat to have. I said, so that should give you guys the opportunity to get out of there quicker. You know,
Yeah,
I'll take one for the team. But yeah, I've heard
right.
some stories about how people turned around and they're right there, you know, and I couldn't imagine if what I saw that night in the park down there was a Bigfoot. I could not imagine what he would have looked like from the front side. You know, I've
Right.
seen the shoulders, and the shoulders looked every bit of 5 feet wide, if not more. I mean, you know, and I'm seeing it from a distance. It looked that big, and just muscle. That's what it looked like. Like whatever was going over, it kind of did that, and it was just like you could see every muscle in the back and stuff. That's what weirded me out, was that a bear doesn't look like that from behind going over something. And our buddy come into the chat yet?
No, I'm still seeing two up at the top, but I'm gonna
I just say
scroll
I'm
down here.
interested in hearing what he would have to say.
Yeah. Oh, I don't understand why he's not
Yeah,
before
West
the
Virginia
show.
seems to be a hot spot.
I'm sorry. What's that?
I said West Virginia, it seems that it's becoming more and more a hot spot,
Oh yeah, yeah,
or probably already has. I've just gotten back into it.
yeah. It's My nephew has, told me stories that, that his neighbors uh, have shared with him, that have huge property and acres. And, they would go out to cut some trees down and find footprints in the mud. And my nephew said when he visits his mom, he sits out on the back deck, and every now and then he'll hear whoops
Right.
or something, screaming that he knows nothing about because he's a hunter. He knows
Mm.
what coyotes and wolves
Right.
and and what the wildlife sounds like. And he said every now and then he's hearing whoops. And I went up there and I stayed for about 3 months, and then I came back to Baltimore. And then in 2020, I moved to PA, and I decided to stay up here with my son and my
Hmm.
grandkids. So that's where I'm going to stay. I started like I said, I had the Maryland Paranormal Research Team, but I also started and created the Maryland Bigfoot Research Team.
Nice.
So I left that, to a friend of mine to run. I'm still part of it. And now I'm trying to get one going up here, and it's called the Mid Atlantic Bigfoot Research Team. Um, there's been there's been Bigfoot sightings in my area, and I'm in Bucks County, PA.
Oh yeah, I know
Okay.
exactly that. Yep.
I live near a lot of farm area. Okay. I live in a cabin, and the closest Bigfoot sighting was a little less than a half a mile.
Nice. I
But I
guess.
can't go on somebody's
I
private
guess.
property. That's
Right.
the thing. It crossed the road and from one property onto another. So, when it gets warm, I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna look around and I'm gonna look for some places that I can, check out that I don't have to have permission. I'm gonna check out some trails and do some hiking and go through the woods and do some tree knocking. And I can't do the whoops. I tried that. I can't do
I
them.
can't say I can do that pretty well. So yeah,
I'm gonna
I
have
got
to.
it.
I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to buy me that machine that the hunters use, where you
Well,
download, like
mhm.
coyote screaming and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
um,
the
I'll tell you.
Sykesville. Have you heard of Sykesville monster
Yes,
creature?
yeah, that was Lon Strickler. Yeah.
Yeah, I went out there one night with a group. Uh, that's been 7, 8 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, and
Hmm.
we heard something that night that sounded like the only thing I could say it sounded like was a woman screaming and a monkey, but they were doing it in it went from low all the way up, man, to but it sounded like a woman screaming, but it had just this other kind of tone to it that it just you knew it wasn't a woman. And
Right.
I went back like it literally shook me because I'd never heard anything like that before. And I went back
Hmm.
and listened to went home, got on the internet, started listening to, and that was the old days dial up, and listened to mating calls of whatever animals could be in that area. I went through, it was a couple days worth of stuff, and never did find, you know, anything that remotely came close to what we heard. And I mean, unless it was somebody out there messing with us, but they would have had to have a pair of lungs, man. That was, like I said, it started out really guttural, but by the time it ended, it was like a high pitched woman screaming, but it had this tone behind it, like I don't even know how to say, like primate, I guess. Uh,
Right.
it was really like almost two things were screaming, but it wasn't. The vocalization and Yeah, and I've never been back out there since. They've invited me a couple times, and it's not probably I would now. More the more I start to understand things. Like I said, my dad did have a Bigfoot sighting in the Smoky Mountains.
Mm.
I was we used to pull campers. My grandparents and my parents, they would set their vacations up around each other. Sometimes my uncle and his kids and stuff, but it was just my grandparents pulling a pull behind camper, and my dad, my mom, myself, my sister pulling one. And he had an old Mercury station wagon we were using, and you used to be able to lay in the back of that thing, and it had that big old back window that would open, and I would lay back there, and that's where my fun was at. And we're going up through the Cherokee, getting close to Cherokee area, Cherokee, North Carolina, and traffic stopped right almost the top of the mountain. And they were more worried about um, not being able to get a takeoff again without having problems, pulling the camper. But it was like 12 cars. And my dad gets out, grandfather's in front of us. They get out and they walk up, I guess, to talk to people. Next thing I know, man, I see my dad and my grandfather moving rather briskly back to the car. And my dad gets in, and my mom's like, "What's going on?" And we thought maybe a bear or something. And he said, "Not now." He said, "June, not now." And I was probably, my sister was very young. She probably don't even remember this. But we had one of those campers that had a loft in it that you could roll the window open a little bit. And so they're all sitting, my grandparents, my parents are sitting around the fire later on that night. And I rolled the window open real slow just to see what they were doing. And I hear my mom say, "What did you two see that is so secretive?" And my dad said, "I didn't want to scare him, but," he said, "I saw something that I never thought that I would ever see." And uh, my grandfather kind of interrupted the last word, and he said, "Sasquatch." And my mom goes, "Bigfoot?" And they start laughing. And I guess the look on my dad's face, man, she stopped laughing. She said, "Seriously?" And he said, "That's the biggest creature I've ever seen in my life." And he said he went across what we would call a hollow, I guess, or a ravine. He said that would have taken a regular human being, he said, you know, getting around the shrubbery or whatever, the underbrush and stuff like that. He said would have taken us probably 15 minutes to get from one side to the other. That this thing made, he said, within like 6 strides. And he said it was huge. And he said it went in and it stopped and got in behind a tree, I guess, to camouflage. And he said, but by then everybody was gone. It took off.
Wow.
But we ended up at a rest area or welcome center outside of Cherokee, and we pulled in there to kind of just go in and check things out. And the guy that was in the lead, or then the front car that first guy to stop, my dad, we didn't know him. But anyway, my dad went up and asked him, he said, "What did you see?" And he said that it was a Bigfoot, but that he was up a tree about 5 foot, reaching like this, like trying to get something, up on the next branch. And I mean, I don't know if it was berries or I don't know. But that was the first time I'd ever heard of a Bigfoot actually being, like up on a, 5, 6 foot up on a tree branch trying to, or in between. He said it was kind of a forked tree, and that's kind of wild. I've never heard a
Yeah.
lot of, but I
Oh,
know
you
it's,
still there? Oh, okay.
yeah, but it scared my dad enough to, you know, that he did not want to talk about it in front of us. And he said, "I hope I never run into that by myself." And then he was a big hunter. And he said, "I don't have a gun big enough in my collection right now." He said that I think would have helped me out in that situation. That's all he said. And I was like, and we talked about it after I got older and, you know,
Right.
And he told me, I said, what did it look like? He said, I didn't see its face or nothing, but he said it walked weird, like it didn't have a bend at the knees. And he said it was, he said it smelled like trash and burning tire, like rubber. That's what they smelled.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know, I said, like a skunk. And he was like, a little bit, but nothing. He said, no, he said it was like when you have a party outside and you wake up at like midway the next day and there's been like half beer bottles out there that is set in the sun and they have that stagnant stale smell. And he said that's exactly what it smelled like. He said crossed with what did he tell me, dead possum or something like that. But
Yeah. Did.
yeah, he said it was like trash, and he said it had a very strong rubber smell. But then again, he said, well, man, that could have been brakes too from people stopping so sudden. Uh, but he
Right.
said
Right.
but he said it definitely had longer hair than what he would have thought. And
Hmm.
I even asked him if it had the conical head shape, and he said I couldn't. I guess was more shocked, and that was way before cell phones, or I think Polaroid cameras might have been out. But you would have had to take a picture and shake it for 20 minutes before it, would get on. But and some of them are the best, I think. But yeah, and that was something to see fear and somebody that you look up to like that. And my dad was
Hmm.
6'4", and he said this thing would dwarfed him. He said it made me look like a dwarf. And I was like, Jesus, they guesstimated it about, he said, between 8 and 10 foot tall, probably. He said, I've never seen anything like that. He said, it was huge, Andy. And then he was telling a couple, they used to have this band that we'd go down there about every other year or sometimes twice a year. Uh, a few years in a row we went twice a year, and then it went to every other year. And they used to have these guys, they were all Native Americans, and they uh, played out front of a like a little country store, and we'd always stop there and listen to them. And the guy that played bass for him became a good friend of my dad's, and they were talking, and he told him what he had saw, and that was my first time hearing him tell about how Native Americans were dealing with Sasquatch, folklore legend. But he said this wasn't legend. He said it handed down through generations of his family, you know, and it wasn't something that it'd be like you and I talking about deer, or something like, or a bear. Like it was just something they dealt with that was around, and some of them were friendly and some of them not so much, is what he told my dad. And
Right.
but they looked at him as protectors of the forest. That's what he told my dad. So that always stuck with me, thinking about that. It was
Well,
like,
let me ask you this.
sure.
You know how UFOs have picked up. There's
Hmm.
more every day now. Um, do you think? Do you think this year that the apple will fall farther from the tree with Bigfoot? Do you think? Do you think there's going to be a? How should I put this? Do you think there's going to be a break in Bigfoot research?
So you think somebody might see something, huh? Is that what you're saying? They catch something,
Well,
or
you know how photos are.
right? Yeah,
Some of the
almost
photos being put up there are blurry, and most of them. Well, I don't want to say this because I don't want to sound like a bad guy, but um, the majority of photos are said to be faked.
right.
Um, you know, when it comes to photography and Bigfoot, it seems like no one's an amateur. No, everyone's a
That's
professional.
it's the same way with paranormal too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like I. if I'm not mistaken, I think it was you. It may have been you that put that posting out there about how paranormal people are treating other, paranormal investigators and
Yeah,
wanting to control and argue and
yeah, it's
just
bad now.
more drama. Yeah, it's bad. More drama than ever. So
It's bad, and it's all, in my opinion, got to do with just people wanting to become famous, I guess is what you could say.
yeah.
Um, I don't know where it's come from, man. My question all the time to people on pages like that, when they will argue, they'll put up a picture, and I'm not saying that I shoot them all down, and I'm always nice about it. I tell them I humbly and respectively disagree with what you're saying it is. And
Hmm.
sometimes I'll say, this is what I think it is, but I never think that I'm right all the time. But sometimes there's some that are just absolutely, or like a guy took a picture here in Gettysburg and posted it. He was in the driver's seat taking a picture on Cemetery Hill, and he took it across his car out the passenger window. But the passenger window was halfway up. In the middle console, he had a red Solo cup. But the way it looked when he took the picture, you could see the reflection, but he posted, I thought he was joking. And he said, look, what is this red? What is this red something energy that we're seeing here? And people were putting laughing faces, and we're all, I was seriously thinking that he was just joking around, and he
Hmm.
wasn't, and got so mad about it.
Hmm.
But I'm like, I ask a lot of people this question, man. Like, asking Dave, I'm like, what is so important about getting a picture of paranormal or spirit or something? You know, what is so important? There's not like some big social trophy that you get if you get a picture of a ghost. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to
Hmm.
put you on top of the community and you'll be the most famous rich person there is. So why are you guys like cutting each other down and everything else? Just agree to disagree and move on. And matter of fact, a woman posted something on a Gettysburg site where she had taken pictures from Devil's Den up to Little Round Top, I guess.
Hmm.
And I'll send you this, man, and it's the perfect example of pareidolia. And I myself looked there and I said, "That's a Bigfoot." Looked like it was bent down, picking at rocks.
Hmm.
And people were blowing it up, people were changing it and stuff. It literally ended up being the shadow of the rock, like just the shadows all mixed perfectly together, that it looked like a Bigfoot. I mean, it had me sold that that's what it pretty much was. And I was excited about the fact that maybe somebody got a really good picture. It was a distant picture, and then once we blew it up, I was talking to the gal that took the picture, and she was right along with me trying to debunk it or not. And but this year, I think the more the technology comes out, the more pressing that we do, and unfortunately, building, that continues to go into their habitat. That at some point, I think the possibility of people not being able to deny it is going to happen. And yeah, and also with the UFO phenomenon, and seeing more things that are unexplainable. I mean, it's gotten to me anymore. It doesn't surprise me when somebody sees a UFO. I would just like to see something that's, very, very, like, right on it.
Hmm.
And I have friends that believe that Bigfoot and UFO and all that is all tied together, and I'm not closed to that, you know,
Right.
but I haven't researched it enough to to say that I agree or disagree. I'm open to that. I do think it's sometimes an I more lean towards interdimensional,
Right.
that it's something that's going in and out of dimensions possibly. And but hey, have you heard where they see the blue balls and stuff like that right before Bigfoot sightings sometimes? Or they see
Yes.
stuff in the sky and stuff like that, and then it's so yeah, I don't
Yep.
know. I mean, it's interesting, man, for sure. And I think that's what people are losing in the paranormal field is the whole, to me, the excitement of researching the stuff, and then you find something else that's really cool while you're researching that. And it just is a never ending, you know, just you can't fathom how much other stuff and cool stories that you find, down the, by just researching, is Bigfoot and UFOs the same, or have in common. Next thing you know, you're looking at all kinds of stuff, and pictures and that's how people get into it. It seems like today, 15 minutes or binge watch 2 or 3 episodes of a paranormal show, and all of a sudden, all the people are experts, and they think just go out here, grab a REM pod, you know what I'm saying? Buy a REM pod, a cheap camera, a video or a audio recorder, and you're out here putting yourself in somewhere deep like Waverly Hills or something, and with no research, no real, I don't want to say training, but no experience. And
Hmm.
that's where I think the drama and stuff comes from, because everybody wants to be right, and probably 90% of us are wrong. So, but nobody's going to, I would admit it. But yeah, it was me that put that up. It's terrible to see people doing. I can tell you personally, I've been attacked a couple times, um, but I've got big shoulders, so I'm all right with it. But I do know a few friends of mine that have lost jobs because of being attacked, and they had jobs with networks, I should say, and people were just so mad that they didn't get that spot on that show, or they didn't get to do another episode, on another show or something, even if it was just interviewing somebody about their experience. And yeah, there's one in particular. He was pulled into the corporate, and they pretty much told him, you either smush this and take care of it, or we might have to release you. And it was enough for him to give up. And I mean, he's doing well still out there on the TV land, but he lost something that he dearly loved, and that was exploring and going to all these exploring people's experiences. And he had to give that up because this person, man, was just evil in my opinion. But but I don't understand the drama
Yeah.
at all. I really don't, man. We should all be around helping each other and supporting each other, because there's always somewhere that doesn't have a team investigating that could be getting investigated. There's plenty of room
That's
out
right.
here for all of us. And we should be more sitting down with like-minded people and talking over, what do you think your theory is? And even if you disagree with them, you know, it doesn't have to be in a nasty negative way, you know.
Right.
You, and that's the way I
Exactly.
try to be with it, and you know, most of the time I don't say anything. If I see them getting hot under the collar, I'm just like, okay, you know, I leave it alone, because it's not worth it. Carrying that kind of energy in to places and being egotistical and narcissistic and mean, and you go in somewhere, man, that's got something meaner than that, you could be in trouble.
Oh yeah. So I just recently I had, I'm not going to mention their names because I don't do that, but
Hmm.
a guy contacted me through email and said that he more or less wanted control of my podcast, the content, who I should have on, who I shouldn't, who I should associate with. And I was like, oh my God, I don't believe this.
Yeah.
So I just simply emailed this person back and told them, no, not
Yes.
happening. Don't involve me in that shit.
Exactly.
Not going to happen. This, I want to make sure I get this in here. Have you studied phone calls from the dead?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I had
Before
a
you
very
comment
close.
on it,
Yeah, I just had a
I'm
very
sorry.
close experience friend that had that happen just 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Let me comment, and then I will hear yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened to me twice in my life. I'm 60 years old. Uh, Back in 2003, when my dad passed away, uh, my dad lived alone. He lost, we lost my mom at age 52 from diabetes, kidney failure. So after that, he lived alone, and all the time I would be calling him and checking on him. And if he didn't pick the phone up, I went over to his apartment to check on him to make sure he was okay.
Right. Right.
And when he was okay, he was either sleeping or he was out in the community room, talking to the other people that lived in the apartment complex, because they had a recreation room for crafts and stuff like that.
Right.
So when he passed away, now he died in my house, my old house. Um, I think it was about 2 months had gone by. And I always used to be worried about, oh, I got to call Dad. I haven't heard from him in a while. I got to make sure he's okay. Like 2 days would go by or something. So one afternoon, I was at my house, 2 months after he died, and I picked my phone up and I was dialing his number, and I put it up to my ear, and I get a recording that the number you have reached has been disconnected. And I'm like, hung the phone up, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
And I looked at the time and I said, all right, I got to go to the kitchen and get a drink because I got to take medicine. So I went to the kitchen. I no sooner got in the kitchen, the phone rang. And I said to myself, all right, I'm tied up. I'm just going to let the answering machine pick it up. So I did. So I got my drink, got my medicine, went back in, and I pushed play on the answering machine. And I hear this message that I had to play over and over and over because I wasn't sure if it was saying I'm dad or I'm dead.
Right.
Okay. So I recorded it onto a recorder, an audio recorder, and every person I let listen to it said it was saying I'm dead. I thought it was saying I'm dead
Right.
because that's what it sounded like to me.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I played it for a lot of people, and they're like, "No, it's saying I'm dead." They said, "Did you check the what's it called? Caller ID." Back then, they used to have the caller ID boxes.
Yep. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so I went back to that because I hardly ever emptied them off. I went back to that day, to that time. Wait a minute, let me just see what this says. Okay, so I recorded it. And I went back, like I said, and I checked the caller ID box, and my father's phone number was on there
Oh,
for that time. But his phone was disconnected because when I cleaned his apartment out, I had his phone service turned off.
right.
So after that, my cousin Bobby has a heart attack. All right, let me just check these real quick.
I'm finally seeing these now. They just popped up. Yep.
Yeah, I got to talk with Restream. This is not right. So let me finish this. So Bobby had a massive heart attack. Well, while he was with his wife, she was running around on him. cheating on him. So when he passed, she made the funeral arrangements. We went to the church where they had his ashes, and she had plans to go back to her house and for lunch and food and drinks and stuff like that. So on the way back to his house and her house, my phone rings, and I told my wife, I said, I'm just going to let it record, and I'll listen to it when I get inside. So when I got inside, I listen to this message that says, "That bitch." Okay. And then a second one came through. And the second one said, Ashley, that bitch. So I let my wife listen to it, and I said, hon. Now, Ashley was his second daughter who was in Arizona.
Right.
She didn't come to Maryland when her father died because they had differences between them. So the bitch part, I think he was referring to his wife. And Ashley, he was trying to, I don't know, Ashley, he said her name twice, and then he said, that bitch. I don't know if he was mad at Ashley too.
Right.
But this happened within 30 minutes after leaving the church, after his service. So, I still have them to this day. I'll send them to you. I have to make a note and get them out. And that's the only two that I personally experienced. But, I read a lot of stuff on people, receiving phone calls from the dead and having experiences and stuff like that. What do you think about that?
Oh, I definitely, the way I look at things is we are all made of energy, vibration, and frequency. That is what we are all made of. That's what we're all about. So I believe when we die,
Right.
obviously, I would think that our soul or spirit goes to heaven. Hopefully mine will, or somewhere else, either up or down as it goes. But I also think that we leave imprints behind, but our energy doesn't dissipate, it just changes form. And so, I think it's not a problem that if we're energy attracts energy, that phones, TVs, any of that, because every piece of paranormal equipment we have out here is made to pick up either frequency, vibration, or some kind of an energy. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's nothing that surprises me that they could communicate through a device such as a phone. There is a guy, and I cannot remember where I watched this the other day, but there's a guy he's got a thing called the Dead Ringer. And it literally is a phone, like the old school ones, and you pick it up, and you could probably pull that up and look at it because I think he was making them. God, I can't remember where I watched that. But it's literally a phone, and you're talking, and I believe Katrina Weidman was on it.
Okay.
I believe it was called there's a show that she put out with a bunch of other people where they would go to these different places that shot that horror movies were made after, such as like Poltergeist, Amityville, stuff like that. And they would go and they were showing how much was Hollywood and how much really happened at those places. And they would go into all this, and that, and they would research it. And a guy that had a thing, and it was a regular ring, the old dial telephone. And you would pick it up, and it would ring. You'd pick it up, and I think that was just part of it. But it was kind of like an SB7, but a phone. But I had a friend of mine not long ago. We lost a good woman in the paranormal field to cancer, and my buddy would, while she was even she was going in and out of the hospital, and he would call her and do Facebook video timing with her because she could prop her phone up on the, next to her. It was easier for her to do it. And he received a video message, or her trying to call, and it said missed video call, that was about an hour after she had passed away. And he went looking into, did a nurse or somebody call? Because she died in the hospital. Asked her two children, her ex-husband. Unfortunately, they had spent a lot of time with her, but none of them were there. They were rushing to try to get there, and she was gone when they got there. And none of them, they promised him up and down, no, the nurse that was watching her and the doctor both said no, her phone, it was still charging over there, and there's no way that, yeah. And to this day, he's wishing that he would have, he didn't, it wasn't that he saw it, like he didn't have his phone on him when it happened. But I had another friend of mine that he had a friend come up missing, and they found him, unfortunately killed out in California. And about 6 months, man, after he passed, he gets a phone call, one of the wall hangers, landlines, picks it up, and he said all he could hear was screaming in the distance, and it was his buddy over and over saying, "You need to change. You need to change. You need to change," like that. And
Right.
And at the time he was battling an addiction, and the phone call was so, it imprinted on him so bad, he literally within an hour was sitting at a rehab center. And hasn't, it's nothing to laugh about. But the thing was, he talks to this day about, he could hear these screams. It was weird. And, but he wasn't, and he was, I don't want to say he was sober when he picked up the phone, but he hadn't had anything in a while. So it wasn't like he was
Right.
under the influence of something. But yeah, I've heard it many times that that's happened. And I absolutely
Yeah.
believe it can, because I mean, we use the same thing. I mean, it's almost like using the same thing when we're using spirit boxes and stuff. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
frequency, and you should check out a thing called Staticom. I don't know if you've got Staticom.
Staticom.
Yeah, I'll send you. It's
Hey.
Ron Yacobetti. He has a
Okay.
new device that he uses, and I have never heard anything. He doesn't use any frequencies. He uses a white box, a white noise generator that's just by itself. And it goes through, it's not a program. He uses a laptop to equalize out the sounds. But you get clear voices, and I've been part of it a couple times. Whenever he's around, he's a good friend. And you'll ask questions. It's weird because it sounds like 3 or 4 people talking sometimes, but you can say, "Hey, can you tell me my name?" And I haven't been too many times around him that he asked it to repeat. Like we were at Hanover Tavern at a Paracon a couple weeks ago. He said, "Can you tell me where? Can you say Hanover?" And within a couple seconds, Hanover, and it's like, unless he's a very honest guy, but he's a very um physics man. He's one of the most intelligent people I've met. but he definitely believes in the spirit world and, another side. But he also took sound engineering and stuff like that. So,
Right.
somebody
Andy, let me ask you a question.
sure.
Are you pressed for time?
No, sir. I'm good.
Okay. Okay. What I'd like to do is, I don't know, maybe we can finish out this half hour or the whole hour. Stay on until 10. I'm not seeing the second guest, but what I want to get out there to the listeners is I've been experiencing a lot of technical difficulties with Restream. So the first half hour, I was not able to put up the listeners' messages. But when you type something, put your name in there, your first name in there with it so that we can answer your question. Because the only thing I'm seeing is Facebook user, Facebook
Same.
user, Facebook
Same on
user.
my end.
Right. And I do know that you would have to give Restream permission in order for your name to show with your question. So when you ask your question, please put your first name in there, and we'll be more than happy to answer your question. And they are popping up now. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to do, Andy, if you want to go get a drink or go to the bathroom.
Sure.
I'm going to put a commercial on, and we're going to be right back. And then we're going to take questions from the listeners, and we'll give you an answer. We'll be right back.
Wow.
All right, and we're back. So, listeners, once again, if you have a question, put your first name in there, and whether you have a question for Andy or myself, and we'll be more than happy to put your comment up and answer your question. All right, boy, I'll tell you, I gotta get on the restream. When I played those commercials, it blasted in my ear. Okay, so loud. The volume changed on its own. So I don't know. Maybe I have. Oh, I didn't tell you this. My cabin is haunted.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Not sure what it is, but I moved here in 2020, and when I did, me and my wife moved here. I don't have the date in front of me. It was August of 2020 when we moved here, but I know it was a few months after that. The first experience that I had was my granddaughter asked, she was 2 at the time, she asked me to go get her a Huggy, a drink. So I go out into the kitchen and I get one out of the box. And I'm getting ready to put it into her sippy cup. I'm sorry. And all of a sudden, I seen this black, dark shadow to where I couldn't see my kitchen cabinets up in the ceiling
Oh
because
boy.
the cabinets are up high. So I'm looking at it, right? And I'm watching it move. And my granddaughter points up at it. She sees it. She goes, "Look, Pop, Pop, there it goes. There it goes." Gone. So after that, the time span was like whenever. It would be a week later, it'd be 3 weeks later. Uh, Strange things started happening. One of the things was I had a doctor's appointment and I had gotten a can of body spray out of the bathroom and I'm spraying myself. And by the time I'm done spraying myself, I got to the kitchen and I sat it on the counter, come back in here, sat down, took a drink, and I hear something go like boom. And I looked and I hear something going boink. And I get up and I go out in the kitchen and I look down on the floor and the can's spinning. So I grabbed it. And I picked it up and I put it back up on the kitchen counter. So another time, I took some trash out and my wife was in bed. I was the only one up. It was late. And I come walking back in the front door and one of my granddaughters' little brown Nerfy like footballs is rolling towards me at the door, coming to me. And I put my foot on it and stopped it. And I picked it up, put it in her toy box. And I lay on the couch and I'm watching TV. And then all of a sudden, her toys start, the sound starts coming on. "Hey, do you want to play?" I got up. The first thing that crossed my mind was she put her toys away, but she didn't turn them off. I pulled the train up out of the toy box. I flipped it over, and the button is off. So
Yeah.
I said, "Wait a minute, let me make sure." So I look at the other toys that are audible, and I made sure that they were all off in the off position. So I laid back down. 2 hours went by. They started going off again. So I got up. I said, "All right." Me, I don't like to screw the plate to toys. I just snap it on. So I took the batteries out and I said, "That'll solve that problem." Went back over, laid down, started watching TV. Toys are making noise again. So that stopped for the longest while. Did it a couple more times after that, within months. Um, the other day, me and my wife was sitting in a recliner and I was sitting in my wheelchair. And I said, "Let me watch this." The news was on. So I turned around And just as I turned around, she saw it and I saw it. A box of recycled paper lifted up about 3 inches, flipped over, emptied out, and the box fell on the floor. Okay. And I looked at her and she looked at me and she goes, "What did you bring in here?" I said, "I didn't bring anything in here." Now, another time, I'm sitting here. I like to stay up late and I'm on a computer and I didn't have headphones on and I hear knock, 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 knock. I'm only 3 feet from the door from my desk. Got
Right.
up, door, nothing there. Turned the light on, looked left, looked right, looked straight, nothing. As soon as I shut the door, got back over to my desk and sat down in my wheelchair. Knock, 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 knock. I jumped right up. Opened the door. I left the light on. I looked out, looked left, looked right. Nothing. So I asked one of the neighbors here that's been here for like 11, 12 years. And I said, do you know of anybody that may have died in the cabin where I'm at? No, but right behind you, a woman, uh, they found a woman deceased. She had I'm sorry, been in her cabin for like 12 days before
Ooh.
they did a wellness check. Police forced their way in, found her in bed dead. I'm like, okay. My wife said to me, and then we'll take some questions. My wife said to me, it seems to her like it's the type of ghost that likes to prank.
Hmm.
Like knock something over. There were times where I thought my wife was crying, and
Right.
I'd go to the back bedroom, open the door, and she'd sound asleep. And I'd wake her up and say, "Did you holler for me? Are you crying?" "No, you're hearing things." I said, "No, I'm not." Plain as day. And I got 30% loss of hearing in my left ear. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but from time to time, things happen here that are, you know, uh, unexplainable. And I thought when I hung my boots up in 2018, I got rid of everything I took home with me, but this is
Right.
a new home. So, I haven't been anywhere recently unless it was from a you know, I go to my family's house, and spend time with them unless I picked up a spirit there and followed me home or whatever. But I'm
Well, it's
starting to think that
possible.
it's yeah, I'm starting to think that it's the woman. But let me go back to here. Okay, let me drop that. Okay, here's one. Susan, was the park where you saw something cross the road Green Ridge in Maryland? I think that was you.
No.
Yeah.
No, this was, man, I'm going to have to find maybe while we're sitting there, but it was not Green Ridge. Um, because Green Ridge, that's out like by Great Capen, isn't it? Because we
Uh,
like,
it's in
Cold
Maryland because my friend Mike likes to
Springs.
go there a lot.
Yeah, I think that's out. No, this would have been, we come up over the mountain. It brought us down into, I believe, like Waynesboro or a little bit outside of that. Actually, let me put it in while we're sitting here. I'll check this out. Um, Man, I was just talking about it this morning because somebody else had went that route. Um, and I can't remember. And I'll tell you, I'll be able to find it here in a minute. But yeah, I know that Green Ridge wasn't very far. I used to live where I grew up at. I used to live, or not where I grew up at, but where I lived at before I moved to PA. I was right dead center, like 6 miles one way to 16 miles one way to Winchester and 16 miles one way to Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. And I guess you would go. So I think, yeah, I think where they're talking about Green Ridge, isn't that like you go through Paw Paw, West Virginia, or somewhere like out that way? I'm pretty sure that's what she's talking about. Like
I'm not
it's,
sure. I'm thinking more like Harford County or maybe Cumberland.
yeah, that's where I'm talking
Not,
about. Yeah, that way.
I'm not. I'm not really sure. Mike, if you're in the chat room, can you confirm the location of Green Ridge?
Yeah, I believe it's okay, hold on here.
See, I can't really tell who's in the chat room unless they put their name with
Yeah, I know
their
that's
question.
it's doing the same. So
That's one of the things of Restream. That's not a technical error. That's all the time. They do that all the time.
because they want permission, I guess, from
Let's see. Let me take.
I know as soon as I see that, I think is it
Okay, let me
Catoctin?
put that one. Let me see here. Let me get down the bottom. Here, this may help. Is it in Western Maryland?
So yeah, that's out there. I think where you're talking about, that would be like
I don't.
Cumberland, like
Yeah, I
New.
don't think it's. I'm sorry. I don't think it's near Elkton State Park or anything like that. I think it's a little farther out. So
Okay, here we go. I think I found where I'm talking about that it went across was Catoctin State Park. It said
that's where you had
Thurmont, Maryland.
Thermont. Okay,
Frederick Thurmont, yeah. That's where it
right.
was. We've seen it because it brought us right over top of it. Cunningham
Uh-huh.
Falls. That's what's out by it.
Cunningham Falls.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
It's thick
So
and
you said
winding.
I'm sorry. You said that was Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah, it would be around Thurmont, Frederick, Maryland. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's Catoctin State Park. But talking about out towards Paw Paw and I guess it would be Romney, West Virginia. I had some friends that went out there camping. And what's funny about this is my friend David, he dresses up for the Gettysburg Bash and other places. He dresses up Buddy the Bigfoot. He's a tall guy, and he's he's not heavy set, but he's just a big guy, And
Right.
they went camping out back of it wasn't a park or nothing, it was just in an area. And they did not go out there with the thoughts of Bigfoot, I don't think. But I remember the
Okay.
story. But they were camped with pretty much a rock wall that went up the mountain like like a electrical line, something like that. But anyway, they were sitting around the campfire, and he said late night, starting into early morning, rocks were being thrown off the top of this place. He said there was no human that he knew of that could have picked them up and thrown them. He said, or he
Right.
didn't want to meet. And it was enough with them to get out of there and take off. Well, I used to deliver. I worked for an HVAC company, and I was a dealer, a retailer, and I used to go out to that exact area and drop off equipment and stuff like that. And a woman told me, she said, listen to this on the way home. and she got my phone number, and she forwarded me this story. And in the exact same area, and this was right outside Augusta, West Virginia, Romney, Augusta, a guy had Great Cacapan. A guy, a doctor out of like Leesburg area, something like that, had bought a house out there. He wanted to get his family. He had a couple young girls, and he wanted, before they started into regular school, he wanted to get them out of that atmosphere. So what he would do is, so he would leave Monday mornings and drive, that distance, and stay a couple days, 3 days a week, and then he would come home. And they had a camper out back that the girls used to like going out and playing house and stuff in and whatnot. Well, as they got a little bit older, they had asked if they could actually spend nights out there. And they allowed them to do it. And one of them was about 8 years old. And if I can find this again, I'll send it to you. But something reached in the window and actually through the screen and picked the girl up out of the bed that was the loft in the camper. And she said it was big, hairy, and smelled. But the dogs started going nuts and ended up, nipping at this thing or whatever, and he dropped her. But
I think I heard that on Outcast, Outpost Sasquatch. Yeah.
But all of a sudden, man, I found out that it was within a mile of where my friend David been. So we have talked about going up there. And what's funny is he just bought a house up in that area. And I'm like, well, it's like a little farm and stuff. So we have milled over it a few times about going up there and, doing that. But it's just, man, the curiosity of that it seems that Bigfoot has, some of the stories that you hear and stuff like that really intrigues me too. But then you hear the stories about somebody throwing stuff and everything, you know what I'm saying, at people. And I can understand protecting your home or something, or even like a bear, you go near their young, they're going to flip out on you.
Oh, yeah.
So activity in Morgan County, West Virginia, Berkeley, yes, ma'am. Great Cacapan was 4 miles from my driveway to Great Cacapan, and I went to Great Cacapan all the time because I could go on top of the mountain, and I believe it was called Cooper Mountain, maybe Nelson Mountain, something like that. But you could see you could see 3 states from up there. And but they had a lake, a couple different fishing lakes up there, and I would take friends of mine that were from the city would come visit me. They had never seen the Milky Way. They had never seen that because they'd all grew up, and actually it was my friend from outside of Baltimore. When I was dating her and her daughter, she had seen it, but her daughter never had, 17 years old. And I took them out there and went on top. I don't want to say on top of the mountain, but it is. But Great Cacapan State Park's beautiful. But we were up there one night, and one of the rangers stopped in, just checking, nothing. Actually, I think he was looking to see if we were fishing, and he made the comment. She was more worried about aliens, I think. She's like, "What if something comes down here?" I mean, it's a great place to watch for that too. And he said, "Oh, I wouldn't worry about aliens as much as I would." He said that old big feet. Like he didn't say Bigfoot. He said big feet. Yeah. And I said, "Oh man," I said, "Y'all ever seen that up here?" And he said, "Son," he said, "I got to go up and lock the gate at nights because they don't allow you to go all the way up on top of the mountain after a certain time, unless they have an event up there." And he said, "I've heard things and seen silhouettes of things," he said, "that I've just put in the back of my mind." That's what he said. He was like, he said, I'm not interested in knowing what it is or who it is, and they don't seem to be interested in me as long as I'm just doing my job and leaving. That's what he said. And I was like, fair enough. But, I've heard of so many of them just, people make claims, oh, I leave. Somebody the other day said not to leave any kind of, when you're gifting, not to leave food. And I've never heard that
Yeah.
before.
Well, just like anything else, in the paranormal or Bigfoot, everybody has their own way and technique of, uh, investigating. I mean, who can say for sure
That's what I
that
thought.
if you feed a Bigfoot and you stop, what could happen? That's what
That's
most of them say.
that's
But
what
the
pretty
thing
much is.
is, uh, to think that they would get angry because you stopped or forgot to feed them, and gifting, anything from a jar of peanut butter to
Mhm.
a candy bar, toys. Now I'm just hearing something recently that Bigfoot, for some reason, likes the color blue.
Really?
Yeah, but nobody has said why. They're just stating that, oh, Bigfoot likes blue, the color blue, and I haven't heard that come from one person. Many people
Right?
are
Huh.
posting it, so I don't know if it's like a chain reaction or
Well,
you
maybe. I
know.
mean, we don't know enough. I wonder, that would be something. See, now this is how I research stuff. Now, you just saying that, what comes to mind for me is to go check out and see what primates see. Like, in other words, do they stay the same color spectrum that we do? Like, do they see something different than we do, or do they see more color than we do? Or
Well,
also check out
go
and
ahead. I'm
see if there's a. I wonder if there's a color that any primate more tends to go after.
and
Wonder what
answer this question for me. Why does Bigfoot seem to like bacon?
everybody loves
Right or
bacon.
wrong? Well, yeah, but I mean, you see it posted a lot that, oh, we cook bacon, in the morning, at night, and we do it to draw them near, you know.
I wonder if bacon has a stronger smell than like sausage or
Oh, it
something.
does.
Yeah,
Because when I go out of the cabin and put something in my trash can under my carport, I can tell when somebody in the other cabins are cooking bacon
gotcha.
or you know cooking a turkey, a roast, or a number of things. Yeah. So
I can
yeah, I
tell.
mean,
Go ahead.
bacon does throw off a good smell. I'm sorry.
So, like I said, I live. I don't know if you know. Well, you know where Caledonia State Park is.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Well, it's going. If you're on Route 30, like it's if you get off 81, I-81 to head to Gettysburg on Lincoln Highway, that's Route 30. And right before you get to hit the mountain to go up and then come over into Gettysburg, there's a camping area in a state park that's Caledonia, but it's the
Okay.
Machaw Forest there. And so I am on, when I go to work and back, um, I go over South Mountain, but it's still kind of part of that forest area. They have campsites here and there that are literally just primitive. You call up, make a reservation. You say, I want, they got them numbered like A, B, C, D. I want to be in A, but there's no electric, no water, no nothing. That there's a place called T-Berry Campground or camp in the area, which I pass, which is a big, um, it's just a big parking lot but it also has, these primitive sites, and a lot of people will go up there. Plus, it's right on top of the mountain, like it's the highest peak that you go across on South Mountain. But they have a hunting club and stuff that's way back, off the beaten path. But that somebody put in a so I was looking at newspaper articles on Bigfoot, and two of them that were sightings at those camping areas was both, there was nobody else camping there but one or two people, and they were with each other, and both times they were cooking bacon, and it drew it out. She's got a
All
place toward
right.
mountains between Great Capon and Paw Paw. Oh, I'm sure if there's he can definitely get lost in that area for sure. I know exactly where you're at.
Hmm.
Sure thing.
I'm going to show you a photo, and I'm not going to say anything about it.
Okay.
The date is stamped on it. It's old. I just want to see what you pick up from this photo. It was. I will say this: it was at Crybaby Bridge. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Oh yeah.
And I took this photo, and I captured something, but it wasn't until later that I saw another part to it. So let's see if you pick up on both when you see this.
Wow.
I'll give it a few more seconds. There's two parts to this photo.
Is there something
Okay.
about in that right hand corner of the picture?
I'm sorry. What was your
Like when
question?
I'm looking at it, I'm seeing what the white misty stuff on the left hand side, but on the right
Right.
hand side, it looks like something just in the barely in it. Like I don't know, like it's another
Like
line right there.
lips and a nostril. Two not the nose
I
and the
do see
chin.
that. I absolutely do see that. That's crazy.
Now, if you look at the mist, it it to me it looks like a bear cub,
I do. I see
or
that.
or you can see the nose, you can see the eyes, and I'm not one of these people that see the eyes, see the ears, I mean, it clearly shows it.
Yeah, it's like a raccoon or a bear cub. You know what I'm saying? I see what you're
Exactly,
saying.
yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. And then
But
the
then
one,
later on, you're correct. If you look to the right of that mist,
yes,
you
that's
will
what I'm
see a
saying.
set of lips. If you look up, you will see nostrils, and you will
I
see the
do.
chin curving around. Yeah, that was
Man,
back in 2007. Yeah, but when you go when somebody mentions Crybaby Bridge, you look at them and you say, which one?
right,
Just like Ghost Road.
right.
I'm familiar with at least a half a dozen Ghost Roads.
Now, are
Because
you
it's such a
talking
popular.
Crybaby Bridge, the one up your way?
Yeah, no, it was in Maryland. I can't
Yeah,
remember
because I
the
know
exact location.
there's one what in Lancaster too, or something like that.
Yeah.
There's one around Lancaster
So,
somewhere. But I thought Bucks County had a Crybaby Bridge.
all right, let me take a look here real quick. Oh, one of my questions I wanted to ask you, and then we'll see if there's another question yet. Um, where did it go? Here we go. Do you think Bigfoot and aliens are related?
I like
you
that. That'd be a cool tattoo. um,
know, yeah, because they say that just before a Bigfoot sighting, there have been people that have had a UFO sighting
That's what I'm saying.
minutes
I've
or
heard
a
that.
half hour prior to the Bigfoot sighting. So,
I mean, it's very possible. Like I said, I definitely think they're interdimensional or they travel some way cloaked or something.
mhm.
And you hear the same about um, UFOs, that some of them cloak or something. They say that. So yeah, it's very possible that they could be related. But I always tell people, where did they ever get the idea for Chewbacca on Star Wars? I mean, right there's as close as you could get to a Bigfoot. But do you know that they found? I can't remember if it was Blind Frog Ranch or might have been Skinwalker Ranch. Somewhere out that way, they found hieroglyphics or stuff left
Right.
behind and
Mhm.
carvings, and a few of them showed what we would depict as a UFO or a great
Right.
light in the sky. But it
On the wall,
also,
on the
but
walls
all,
of caves.
yep, but also right near that, it would have these big, gigantic looking, what we would say probably looks like a Bigfoot. And
Mhm.
they were right in the same, stretch of 5 foot, of these glyphics that they put. So, I mean,
And
that's kind of weird in its own self as well. Um, I mean, it showed now they said that could have stood, I can't remember what they said, but like a two-headed deer, you know what I'm saying, or something like that.
mhm.
But some of the stuff that they put up there represented like a two-headed deer would mean that was the best hunting spot or something like that.
Right.
But they could not. They talked about that. I believe it was somewhere out there that I can't. I believe it was on one of those ranches that they found it up there. But it definitely had what looked like a UFO or bright light. I guess they were saying it wasn't the sun. But then they also showed not very far from that was what we would depict as a Bigfoot. And but I just cannot tie the two. I don't know. There's not enough for me yet to say yes or no because I haven't tied
Right.
the two together yet because there's similarities and there's not similarities. But I have heard many times, and actually, was it Ronnie LeBlanc and them that had that time that they were filming and they had a big what they seen was a light out in the woods or looked like possibly a UFO, and then right after that had like some calls or something. I believe it was Ronnie. Or it was one of those shows, Expedition Bigfoot, or it
Right.
might have been Matt Moneymaker and them. I don't know. But they were definitely seeing these. They had it on camera, and sure, it's filming for TV, but I don't think, I talked to Ronnie about that a couple times, and he said we will build the hype up for little bitty things, but there's nothing that they've ever faked. You know what I'm saying, for ratings and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Right.
And but he has sent me some pictures, man. That's blown my mind a few times. And it's so hard, man, with AI out there today. Some people are really good at that stuff, and they can do those AI generated photos and you swear up and down that it's real. But it very
Yeah.
well could be something. I heard a guy speak at it was at the library down the road here about UFOs and dimensional travel, because obviously they're not going to travel 300 million light years, you know what I'm saying, in a
Right.
matter, unless they have a hell of a lifespan and live for millions of years. They
Right.
got to travel somehow to get to and from. And how do we know that's not something that they're pulling in with us? How do we know that? I heard a guy, man, make a really good thing when he said we may see aliens and they may put these Bigfoots are like protectors for them. Like they get, kind of like the way our military is, where we may send in the Marines first and then Army follows up, or Navy or something, or we shoot missiles first and then we go in with ground troops. So are they sending that, Bigfoot in prior and to scope things out? But then it's like those are the things that I can't match up, because I mean, I swear, I think it's I keep thinking it's really a primitive, sometimes like what do they call them? Neanderthal, that's just more further along. I mean, I don't know, but it's like, but I've heard so many videos, man, where they've caught saying that they're talking and it's just a hair under being able to understand it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like they have this language, and you could tell that they're talking to each other. There's a guy, I can't remember the guy in Washington State, or was it Canada, Ontario, that was in his tent, but he would gift and leave stuff out. And he went there month after month after month, and finally had him come up close enough to where you could actually hear him breathing and stuff, unless he was lying. But his credibility, and I can't remember his name, but his credibility was pretty good in the community. And but they're like talking, it was almost like a chatter, but it was almost like they couldn't, kind of like what a baby sounds like right when they're trying to develop words and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but it definitely seemed like they understood each other. But I think I've heard more in my time looking through stuff about Bigfoot, other than chasing people out of their area. It seems like they have a lot of compassion for the human being, like, or they're not compassion, but they are as interested in us as we are them. Like they're, and it's
Right.
like, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't think they would hurt you, but they can.
Oh, heck yeah, they could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you don't. I mean, how often do you hear of someone being attacked by a Bigfoot and severely being messed up or killed?
the preferred colors for a primate are green and blue.
I'm sorry, what's that?
The preferred colors for a primate are green and blue.
Green and blue. Okay.
That's what it says.
Wow.
Spontaneous color preference for monkeys. It said the isolate color role of attraction. It says she found that dark red. Oh, that's faces. Never mind. Here's another one. What colors do primates see? They see three colors and that's it. Blue, green, and some reds. So that would make that would not, I mean, that's, to me, shows that if you're giving them something that they are that they can actually see outside of those other two colors, I mean, why wouldn't they be like blue? Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I'm looking through this. It says the blue and green stimulates them more than the red color. So what stimulates?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever been to Chestnut Ridge?
I have not. Where is that at? Why does that sound familiar? God, I should know this.
Well, I believe parts of Chestnut Ridge is not far from where we're going in September, because that's where they're going to do the hikes at the night hikes.
That's where. That's right. That's where I heard that at.
So it goes through
'Cause that's
Pennsylvania,
it's a,
Ohio, West Virginia. Yeah,
it's a state park, isn't it?
mountain area as far
Yeah.
as I know. I haven't really done a whole lot of reading on it. I
It's
mean, I've
Chestnut
watched.
Park. I'm looking at it now. Chestnut Park in Dillsburg, PA.
Okay,
That is
how
mountainous.
would you like to in the near future set something up and do like a weekend camping event?
I would love to. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
We'll talk. Yeah.
sounds
'Cause
awesome.
I definitely have 3 or 4 people my way that would love to go, and I'm sure more. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying?
Oh
But
yeah.
I know for a fact that I have. Like I said, I tell you, somebody, if I can talk him coming on, and actually he's a very shy guy, but my good friend Stacy Lee, her husband, is he's phenomenal when it comes to Bigfoot. Like I've learned a
Right.
lot from him on cryptid
Mhm.
period and UFOs. But like I said, I know a lot about Bigfoot, but I'm just starting to study. Like I said, looking at colors, that's kind of something now that kind of intrigues me. But I heard somebody else say, told somebody they were talking about gifted. I've always heard toys. I
Mhm.
also heard um, something like a cat ball. If it has a blue color to it or a green color to it, give
Mhm.
them something that when they shake it, they get a result. Like they like to be handsy, I guess, or But I heard a guy say the other day, he said, no, always leave them bells. And I'm like, the hide and seek champion of the world is not going to get a bell and go running around, in the woods playing with a bell. I wouldn't think, you
Was
know what I'm saying?
right? Was that the movie? What am I thinking? Man versus Bigfoot. Wasn't it a he gifted or Bigfoot took a fishing bell or something like that, but then at the end gave it back to
That was it.
him?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That was it. Um,
So.
that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I was watching a guy that I've known for a few years down in Virginia that's always done stuff. And he was the one talking about light up balls, but something that you would literally have to shake or squeeze to get it to light up. And maybe that's why he said blue or green. I didn't catch on to that until now.
Well, those sticks that you shake, you got to snap it, but then it's got to be shook,
Glow sticks.
to, yeah, glue sticks. Yeah.
So what we
So
should try.
I do like a trout line.
I was
you
gonna
know,
say, yeah, if we just periodic trees like here and there and put up those blue glow sticks, man. I wonder if that would bring them in.
Andy, I have a book. Every time I come up with a new idea, something that I think might work.
Should. All right.
Yeah, I'm 60 years old now, so my hard drive don't work like it used to.
Understand.
So I put it down in the book. Uh, what did somebody called me Mr. Post a note? That's what it was. Now I got a journal. I keep it in the book and I write it down. You
Right.
know,
I do too. I've
um,
written stuff down tonight already.
it's just like when I was in the paranormal. Uh, I loved doing EVP work, but
Right.
then one night I said to myself, "Wait a minute, I got an idea. Maybe somebody's already done it." So I wrote it down and I did it, and then I uh, told a few people, and they said, "Yeah, I've heard of people doing that, but in the old days, take two tape recorders or digital recorders now, preload questions on one, and have the second one for recording,
We've
put
done
it
that.
in a room, and left and leave.
I've done that. Yep.
And I did that at a Fort Howard State Park Veterans Hospital, and I got results like you wouldn't believe. Everything all right?
Yeah, I just heard a funky noise, and I'm by myself here, and I'm
Whoop.
like, we got a couple haunted dolls in here and stuff like that, supposedly. But we'll leave that one alone. But no, yeah, we used to take and I had a friend of mine that used a baby monitor, and he would put an EVP recorder down, and then he would he'd put 2 or 3 down in different parts of the room, depending on size, and he'd take one baby monitor, and that's what he would leave in there, and then he would talk through the other one or walkie-talkie. And so it's the same kind of deal and stuff, but he that's like here lately. So Jason Hall's daughter Satori, her soon-to-be husband Cody, him and I, man, have done a lot together over the years, and good friend. And he is a mastermind when it comes to sound and EVP, because he had cancer as a child, and so he was stuck in the hospital quite a bit, and he picked up like loved the music, because that's what they would come in and play. They would have trumpet players or somebody like that come in, and he said that was always what he looked forward to. And but he started realizing that, he started kind of getting into, I guess, sound engineering or something. But he used to walk around with a reel to reel and do EVPs.
Oh my God.
And I heard him. I mean, it was small, you know what I'm saying? And with a regular just microphone, man. And but he didn't teach me. He came up with an idea one time. We were at a pajama factory of nothing else that was haunted. And he was on one end asking the spirits or whatever there to come up and tell me something. I was all the way on the other end, and I'm talking a couple football fields long. Go over and tell Andy that Cody says hi, or go over and tell Andy you're say the name Purple, and stuff like that. And that actually worked a couple times, and I have no idea what he's asking. So I go back on my EVP recorder and I hear Purple. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Purple. There you go.
I mean, but I don't think that anything, I tell people, as long as you're not trying something dumb that could end up getting people hurt, or it's disrespectful to what I call the other side, the spirits, the energy, or or could cause damage to the location. There's nothing that I wouldn't, outside of those things. Who says that an experiment of any kind is not the right one? Any ideas? That's how we've done so well in this community, is off the wall people coming up with ideas. Like, I just recently started hanging bells on doorways off a string. Yep. And that's given me some good things. I mean, and you're in one room and you're here bell ting, somewhere down, stairs in another room, and there's somebody down there. So it kind of gets you, that way. And she said some people call it samurai chatter, is what she said about Bigfoot's chattering. That makes sense. But yeah, I don't think any experiment, something like you just said, man, that's a really good idea. I've left EVPs before, or EVP recorders before, at locations, and went out to have dinner, and then come back and just let it run through as we're setting up or something. And man, we had a place in Charlottesville, Virginia. We picked up some stuff, man, that was it was so spot on for what the place was being haunted as that it was nuts. Yeah.
Well, here's something I learned from a former member, and may he rest in peace. Um, a member by the name of Ed came to me one night. He said, "Dave, you know what I think we ought to start doing?" I said, "What's that?" He said, while we're setting up, running our hardwire and, DVR and all that stuff, he said, as far as audio, he said, we might be missing something. While we're setting up, why don't we put audio recorders in different rooms and see what we get? He said, because I seem to think that spirits like to interact. When there's a discussion going on, they like to throw their 2 cents in there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we tried it, and we were setting up stationary camcorders on tripods, and I was in the room with him, and it was in the kitchen, and he got a recorder going, and when it came time to do our review, we're playing this back, and him and I were talking and discussing something, and the spirit speaks up and says, "Get out." Told us to leave.
That doesn't surprise me.
And then there were many more times after that. We would do that, and we got many of the EVPs that way.
Well, talking about talking about Charlottesville, where we were, it was a bed and breakfast, still is, but it was Thomas Jefferson's physician's house.
Mm-hmm.
But they built onto it as each generation of this family, they were all doctors. And as they had children, they'd build another bedroom. And one of the physicians there, late 1800s, had a daughter that he was, just in love with. It was his, pride and joy. Died from pneumonia and some kind of, probably scarlet fever, something like that. But he had a doctor come in from Charlottesville from UVA that stayed with her pretty much 24/7. And we left the recorder behind and came back and started listening to stuff. And you clearly hear a little girl say, "Doctor," just like that. I mean, it was one of the best ones I've ever heard. But we were testing the theory that, saying, like you're saying, it's telling you to get out. So are they seeing us as a threat? Because I guess the easiest way to say it is, are we ghosts to them when you get into the dimensional stuff? So are they investigating us? So maybe if we're hearing "get out," it's actually a former homeowner that's still in that house that thinks he's still in his time, and he's telling us, get out, not as a protection thing. So we said that, and me and the gentleman was having to talk about that. We set up in the dining room of this place and started doing EVP work. And the next thing I know, we get across the EVPs. It says, you hear this little girl say something, and then it sounds like a gentleman answers her, but we couldn't make it out. But we definitely was getting this. And within seconds later, we get her saying, "Are they spirits?" And that's all we got. Are they spirits? Like, she was asking somebody who we were. You see what I'm saying? And that was wild, because we had always, that was a theory of ours, was I wonder if they are literally, they are literally still think that they're alive in their time period, and they see these people, or they're catching glimpses of us like we do them, and they're like, "Get out," because they think we're a threat, not as much as the same way that we feel when we see, some dark mass, and people will say, get out, and they'll start, doing whatever they need to do. But the paranormal field is so young still, but yet we are so further than when you and I started, and that is, to me, that is why I still continue to love this field, even if I'm setting back. Thank you, Susan. Even if I'm setting back, like you're saying, I've definitely cut back a lot on traveling everywhere and, every weekend and investigating. Now I live in one of the most haunted places there is. And,
Yeah.
and I can share, my experiences with customers. And I do, like I said, I speak a lot at places. And, that's what I like about it now, that I like to see more of people having their first experiences. That really makes me feel good and happy that I can be some part of that. These younger people coming out, or even older people that are just getting into it. And you see them have their first experience that clarifies for them that there's definitely another piece of the story, or another side or dimension or energy. That to me is just, or going into somebody's house and helping them understand that, well, you don't have Satan himself in your house. You just have, the old man that lived here 10 years before you did. You know what I'm saying? And,
Right. Yeah.
to see, because I mean, we've done stuff, man, where kids were terrified, not sleeping, and come to find out there's nothing in the house whatsoever. Their imagination's running crazy. But what we do is I just did this not long ago. I said, okay, we're going in here and we're getting this bad thing out of the closet for you. And we went in there and I made some noises, and, I said, get out of there. And we're like in there with a suitcase. That's the only thing we had, and walked out. And I said, I've run out the door with the suitcase in my hand. And she was 6 years old. And she said, you get it? And I said, we got it. I said, you're going to be good. And the mom called me like 3 weeks later, and she said, she's not afraid to go to bed. She sleeps right through the whole 9 yards. And, just with us doing that. And man, that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But then you have bad cases. When I work in the demonic side of things, it rarely happens as much as they try to depict it. But you really see people that are broken down, man. And it's nice to work with somebody like Jeremy Leonard and Mike Ross, because they're both very compassionate to human beings, but they're very uh, they feel very led to be an extension of God, and fight
Right.
things. And I'm lucky to be part of it as well. But
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get off here because my alarm's getting ready to set here at work, and I can't change it.
Okay. Well, Andy, it's been a treat for me to having you on,
Absolutely, man.
and
Anytime.
I'd like to bring you back for
Please do. Anytime,
another
man.
podcast. And yeah, I'll have to find out what happened to Sean. God, I hope he's okay. I hope everything's all right.
Absolutely.
Because
Same here, man.
yeah, I checked my phone, didn't have any message, so I'm not sure what's going on. But yes, thank you for being a guest. And before I go, if
Thank you.
anyone wants to contact you, how
Yes,
can
you
they
can
get a hold
do.
of you?
I'm Andy Andrews. You're going to see my ugly mug, on my profile page, surrounded by a few people. Please feel free to friend request me. I love that. I mean, I have a page, for family and friends, but that's my main page, that I try to talk through. But also under Vapor, VAPOR, all capital letters, uh, Virginia, Vapor, Virginia. And that is my Facebook page for the team. and also on TikTok under Vapor. And we're trying to get some more followers on that one because we had to switch it up. We had a few things happen, and we like to I like to walk out and do a live on TikTok on the battlefield when I have a couple extra hours a day or something, and show and tell a little bit about the history, and then tell about the paranormal. And it seems to be a big success. And but that's 3 places there, or my real paranormal at gmail.com.
Excellent. All right. I want to thank the listeners for
Absolutely.
joining us tonight. Yeah. Fantastic. So, same time next week. Well, from 7 to 9 tonight. It was my first time back in
Hey,
over 6 months,
well, glad
So, next week I'm going to have, I'm not going to give the guest's name right now, but we're going to be talking about UFOs and UAPs and stuff like that. He's going to have some interesting video and photos. So, Andy, I'm going to send you my phone number.
absolutely,
Please
man.
don't forget to send me them links
I will.
we mentioned earlier in the program.
Will do.
And we're going to say good night, everyone, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.